close the test vote.
If you haven't already, do a check of your clickers. Press the green or red buttons at the top. Make sure you get an OK in the screen. Do that now. We're going to close the test vote in a minute. You won't be able to do it again until we vote, till we use them to vote. Okay. I'm Angela Harkness, Westford's town moderator. Thanks to all of you who've made the time to attend this important annual town meeting. It's my job to ensure the fair and efficient running of the meeting. And to start, I'd like to tell you why we're here, how the meeting will proceed, and what we need to accomplish. You, the voters, are town meeting. You're the legislative body of Westford. Town meeting passes our local laws and decides how we spend our money. And we do this by discussing and voting on each article in the town meeting warrant. Anyone registered to vote in Westford can participate in town meeting. Non-voters may attend but must sit in the designated non-voter area. They can't by the meeting to do so. The warrant is a list of articles we'll discuss and is published well in advance of the meeting. It's our agenda for today. Each article in the warrant asks the voters a question. As each article comes up, I'll summarize the motion proposed as a possible answer, which the meeting will eventually vote to either accept or reject. Once a motion is seconded, discussion begins, and when discussion ends, we vote. The full text of all motions will be shown on the screen and is also in the green motions book, this one, which you can get at the back of the room. Any voter can propose an amendment to change a motion during the course of debate. Simple amendments can be made verbally. All other amendments must be presented in writing after being stated at the microphone. An amendment must be within the scope of the original warrant article. Next slide. If you wish to speak or ask a question, approach any microphone and wait to be recognized by me. You may only speak from the microphones. Please do not call out from your seat or anywhere else on the floor. You must state your full name and full address, speak only to the motion being discussed, and don't repeat points that have already been made. If you've already spoken, let others who have not speak first. Presenters explaining motions have up to 6 minutes to make their case. Speakers from the floor have up to 2 minutes to comment or ask questions. You should state all of your points and ask all of your questions before responses are solicited. Questions and comments must be directed to me. There's no dialogue between speakers, and there should be no personal references or attacks on individuals. Rude or disrespectful speech is discouraged and often has the unintended effect of causing the voters to disregard the opinion of the speaker. If you wish to end debate and call for a vote after being recognized, you should simply say, "I wish to move the question," or something similar. Such a motion is not debatable and requires a 2/3 vote for approval. As moderator, if I think terminating debate will limit informed consideration of the topic or comes before sufficient discussion has taken place, I may rule that request to be out of order. You may not address the meeting and then finish your comments with a motion to move the question. The motion to move the question must be the only thing a speaker says on that trip to the microphone. I will not accept a motion to reconsider anything that has gone to a final vote unless the motion to reconsider is based on a clear technical or procedural error. Oh, so much more clear with my glasses on. Votes will be taken by voice or using clickers, and I will announce the results once they're in. As the moderator, I will determine which of these methods to use in each instance in the interest of the efficient running of the meeting. I will inform you of the number of votes needed for a motion to pass, simple majority, 2/3, or other, before each vote is taken. This is important. During the vote, and while votes are being tabulated, voters must remain seated to ensure the accuracy of the vote. Our meeting mentors are at the red flags. You can see them in the center. Can you please stand, meeting mentors? There they are. They're available to answer procedural questions you might have during the meeting if you don't want to approach the microphone to ask. When you checked in, you were giving a voting clicker like this one, like the one up on the screen. If you're a registered voter and don't have a clicker, return to the teller's desk and they'll sort you out. Your clicker will only work in this room. Keep your clicker with you at all times. Do not give your clicker to anyone else to hold, and do not agree to hold anyone's clicker for them. On leaving the meeting, turn in your clicker at the return boxes by the door. Fine, you've taken one home with you, just return it to the town clerk's office as soon as you can after the meeting. Again, your voting clicker only works in this room. You must be in this room in order to vote. To vote using your clicker, when I say the voting is open, you must wait until I say the voting is open. When you hear me say those words, you can press either the green 1A button to vote yes, or the red 2B button to vote no, and then look for the OK in the LED screen. None of the other buttons on your clicker work. If you wish to change your vote at any point in time while the vote is still open, simply press the other button and the system will record your new vote. This option is available as long there's no way. Have a motion to accept the wording of the motions as it is printed in the motions booklet for each article. Is there a second? This being a routine article, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion passes, it's unanimous. Secondly, non-voters may not address the meeting without your permission. I'll ask now that town meeting allows speaking participation by town employees and town hired consultants like town council or our town manager, who will be participating in our discussion by virtue of their positions. May I have a motion to allow these individuals to address the meeting? Is there a second? This requires a 2/3 majority to pass, so we'll take this opportunity to get used to our clickers. When I say the voting is open, if you want to vote yes to allow these folks to speak, you'll press the green 1A yes button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red 2B no button, and then look for the OK in the LED screen at the top of the clicker. If you don't see the OK, press your button again. It may take a couple of minutes. Anyone have any questions before we open the vote? All right, voting is now open. All in favor, press the green 1A button. Opposed, the red 2B button. Okay, I'm going to close the vote in a moment. Voting is now closed. The motion passes 288 yes to 16 no. Passes by 2/3 majority. Finally, before we begin in earnest, I want to emphasize that every question is welcome. Feel free to ask about the facts of any article or the particulars of any process we're following. If you have a question about something, it's likely someone else in the room does as well. And with that, please turn to page 3 of your green motions booklet so we can begin. We're going to start with the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of Articles 1, 2, 3, 9, 11, 12, 13, 15, 17, 18, and 23, as well as Article 6, which we're adding right now. The full text of these articles appears in your motions booklet. These are articles involving simple, routine, non-controversial, or housekeeping items which don't usually engender discussion or debate. To save time, we can vote on these motions all at once instead of voting on each article separately. However, if anyone has a question or a concern about any of these articles, I'll pull that item out and put it back in its original spot on our agenda so your question or comment can be heard. As I read through the consent agenda items, please say hold loudly from your seat if you have a question or a concern. Is there a second to the consent agenda? I'll now read through the list of the 12 proposed consent agenda articles. Again, please say hold to any item for which you would like further discussion. Everybody clear on that? Okay, under Article 1, I have a motion to accept town reports. Under Article 2, I have a motion for supplemental budget appropriations and transfers to balance the fiscal 2025 budget. Under Article 3, I had a hold there. Under Article 3, I have a motion to make our annual appropriation for chloride remediation from free cash in the amount of $110,000. Under Article 6, I have a motion to dismiss the article. Under Article 9, I have a motion to establish spending limits on revolving funds. Is there a hold? Okay. Okay, talk lower, Emily. Under Article 11, the motion is to appropriate state Chapter 90 funds for roadway maintenance. Under Article 12, the motion is to transfer sums from the Water Enterprise Other Post-Employment Stabilization Fund to Water Enterprise expenses to pay retiree benefits. Under Article 13, I have a motion to provide an annual cost of living adjustment to tax exemptions for qualifying veterans under the HERO Act. Under Article 15, I have a motion to authorize the Select Board to accept easements. Under Article 17, the motion is to authorize the Select Board to acquire and accept easements for the West Street, North Main Street Pedestrian Improvements Project. I have a hold there. Under Article 18, the motion is to authorize the Select Board to acquire and accept easements for the Acton Road Culvert Project and the Reed Brook Culvert Project. Under Article 23, I have a motion to accept Diane Lane as a public way. All right, so I have holds for Article 2 and Article 17. Did I miss anybody? All right, so we'll now vote on the consent agenda except for Articles 2 and 17, which will go back into the agenda in their regular place. So we're voting on 1, 3, 6, 9, 11, 12, 13, 15, 18, and 23. Since no one's expressed any objections, we'll do this by a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? The motion passes. It's unanimous. Gentleman at the microphone, please, in the center.
My name is Justin Loker of 103 Russell's Way. I'd like to move to consider Article 20 out of order.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay, we have a motion to all right, so we have a Motion on the floor and a second to take Article 20 out of order. I'm just going to briefly read a description of Article 20, and then we can have discussion, if you wish, on whether or not we should take that out of order. So Article 20 is a motion that the town amend Chapter 150 of the town's general bylaws, the Stretch Energy Code, by deleting that chapter in its entirety and replacing it with a new Chapter 150 of the Specialized Energy Code for the purpose of regulating the design and construction of buildings and for the effective use of energy and the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions with an effective date of July 1st, 2026. We're just discussing whether or not to take this out of order. Are there any questions or comments on the motion to take this article out of order?
My name is Alan Moyer, 69 Forest Road.
Sir,
Yes,
I recognize you to speak. Go ahead.
thank you. We're here, I'd like to thank you all for coming. We're here to do the town's business. We're here to do all the town's business. I'd like to take all of the motions in the order that they are, rather than having people vote for one issue and leave. So the only reason I can think of to take it out of order is so that people can avoid doing the rest of the town's business. I'd like to encourage us to stay, and therefore I oppose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are you speaking on behalf of the board? Okay. I'm going to recognize the chair of the Board of the Select Board, Scott Hazelton.
So the select board just discussed this, and we believe that when you put out the warrant with Article 20 appearing probably in the afternoon, that there are voters who come prepared to speak to that motion with that warrant article, when it comes up. As we would oppose dismissing it, we would oppose moving it this time, taking the correct order so that those who are interested can be here to debate it. Thank you.
And at the center microphone.
Kathy Lynch on Rush Road. I do think you have an order here from 1 to 20, whatever it is. And I don't see the reason why you would move it other than trying to gain an advantage. I just think if you're going to set it at 20, we should keep it at 20.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions about whether or not we should move Article 20 and take it out of order? It's a 2/3 vote, requires a 2/3 vote. If you are in favor of taking Article 20 out of order, you will vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no. We're going to use our clickers for this. Is everyone ready? All right. You ready, Mike? Voting is open. If you're in favor, press the the green 1A button. If you're opposed, press the red 2B button. You ready? We're about to close the vote. Voting is now closed. Okay. The motion fails. The vote is 83 yes and 276 no. So we'll now go back to the motions as they're listed in the warrant. Articles 1, 2, and 3 having been decided in the consent agenda, we're now at Article 4. Sorry, 2 was held. Okay. Under Article 2, I have a motion that the town appropriate from free cash the sum of $629,000 in order to supplement the following operating budgets in fiscal year 2025. Snow and ice, $400,000. Veteran services expenses, $9,000. Risk management, $220,000. And that the town appropriate from recreation retained earnings the sum of $55,000 for the recreation enterprise expenses, and that the town make the following line item transfers within the operating budget for fiscal 2025. Library expenses, $37,000 from library personal services, from debt service, $100,000 to town capital projects fund, and from debt service, $285,000 for school capital projects fund. Is there a second to the motion? Sir, did you have the question?
I did. My name is Doug Burns. I live at 4 Black Bear Lane. I have just some questions. What is risk management? And funds from debt service, it feels like that's saying that we've got monies that we're paying for on some debt that has freed up, and now we're going to move it. And I look at that as, why isn't that, now that we've paid those debts off, why isn't that returned to the voters?
We'll
as
get you an
opposed
answer to that.
moving that?
Dan
So-
O'Donnell, Finance Director.
So in the first question, the risk management, that's the town's health insurance, all the general liability insurance. It's our pension assessment, and it's all within that 945 budget. So for the risk management, we're requesting $220,000 to supplement our Medicare health insurance plan for our retirees. So we did receive a 13.8% increase this year, which is more than what we budgeted. So our projection is that we need $220,000 to get through the end of the year. So the second part here with the debt service, what we're doing here is we're trying to pay off a couple of projects that came in under budget. The Plain Road sidewalk, it's some school access controls. And the last one is the Blanchard roof project, the HVAC equipment. So we use mitigation funds for the sidewalk project so that projects come under budget. So we're just going to transfer funds from the debt service account, where we do have some excess funds in there because we have not borrowed for a fire truck, and we have other temporary debt out there that we have those funds available. So we're going to transfer those funds to these capital projects. It's going to free up about $243,000 in FY26 budget capacity. So that's the reason for doing this. These projects are pretty low right now on their balances, and it just makes sense to pay them off rather than to borrow them in the future.
Motion passes 354 yes to 14 no. Now we'll move to Article 4. Under Article 4, I have a motion that the town appropriate $200,000 from free cash to provide funds for energy efficiency projects and energy conservation measures in town buildings. Is there a second to that motion? Assistant Town Manager Mike Edwards, right? Yeah. We'll explain this motion. Okay. Nope. Dan O'Donnell will explain this motion.
I was closer. So for this article, we have $200,000 for energy efficiency projects. 177,000 of these were already completed, and we have rebate checks from National Grid. The projects were a police boiler upgrade and weatherization upgrades for the Miller School and WA. We just need town meeting to authorize those $177,000 in funds to pay off the balance and close out the projects. In addition, we're requesting an additional $23,000 for future projects. National Grid rebates only come out certain parts of the year, and they're up to 50% off some of these projects. So the Assistant Town Manager, Mike Edwards, and Jeff Goodwin, our Facilities Director, have done an excellent job leveraging these funds. And we're requesting that we start this fund so that we can utilize these, take advantage of the rebates in the future, and to sort of start this like the perchlorate fund, where we can come back and request additional funds in future years.
Can I get an answer to that and explain the programs themselves, the lighting program in particular?
I just hope whenever we have the opportunity, we will consider dark sky standards for our lighting.
Mike, step up closer to the mic.
What improvements projects are being considered? You know, are they for schools or?
Well, the rebates that Dan spoke of are for projects that already been completed. The future projects that we're going to be looking at are really a combination of town and school buildings. They're primarily almost exclusively interior LED retrofits.
Okay, thank you. I also hope they go off at night, but thank you.
Me too.
Any other? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. This vote, let's try voice vote on this. No, let's use the clickers. All in favor, when I say the voting's open, green 1A. If you're opposed, red 2B. Voting is now open. It's a majority vote only. We'll close the voting in a second or two, so last chance. Voting is now closed. The motion passes 358 yes to 19 no. Let's move on to the capital appropriations under Article 5. There are 4 motions under Article 5. The first motion under Article 5 proposes expenditures from certain existing funds, specifically free cash, water enterprise retained earnings, stormwater enterprise retained earnings, and ambulance enterprise retained earnings for particular capital requests. Is there a second to the first motion under Article 5? I'll read through the list of projects and the amount requested for each, as well as the fund the money will be drawn from. If you have a question or comment for any item, please say hold loudly from your seat. We'll come back to get your question answered before voting. From free cash, $2,639,048 as follows. $50,000 for town computer replacements. $380,000 for school computer replacements. $25,000 for server and storage replacements. $150,000 for town copier replacements. $70,000 to replace the DPW synchro flow pump system. $28,000 to replace the second floor air conditioning unit at the technology building. $40,396 for taser replacement. $180,000 to replace the Nabnasset Elementary School library rooftop HVAC unit. $40,000 to replace the Robinson Elementary School curbing. $90,000 to replace the Blanchard Middle School standby generator. $50,000 to replace or repair the Abbott Elementary School wastewater treatment plant exterior wood siding, roof, and trim. $400,000 to replace the Blanchard Elementary School wastewater treatment plant roof and HVAC. $530,000 for engineering, design, and construction for maintenance and repairs to the 2 town-owned dams. $150,000 for Pleasant Street and Patton Road pedestrian safety improvements. $250,000 for vehicle replacement, bucket truck purchase and equip. $205,652,000 for plows for 4 DPW trucks. From the water enterprise retained earnings, $818,968 as follows. $86,939 for vehicle replacement, 4x4 utility truck with plow. $27,621 for leak detection equipment. $100,000 for new source investigation. $546,000 for Forge Village number 1 and number 2 pump station upgrades for engineering, design, and construction. $58,408 for surveillance camera replacements. From Stormwater Enterprise retained earnings, $1,600,000 for construction of the Reed Brook and Acton Road culverts. And from Ambulance Enterprise retained earnings, $170,757 for 3 cardiac monitors. On that last one, okay. You're right there at the microphone and we're through the list, so go ahead and explain what your hold is on.
Okay, thank you. Mike Harm, 110 Concord Road. Apologies, I thought we were talking about the entire first motion. My question has to do with the item under Technology Department. Could we get a further explanation for $150,000 to replace a town copier?
Conveniently, the IT director is sitting right next to me.
Thank
so
you.
You can. We'll even let him use my microphone.
Anyone problem with that?
It works for me.
Mike Wells, I'm the IT director for the town and schools. So the town buys its copiers. We have in the past looked at leasing them instead of buying them, but we keep our copiers. The current ones we have will be 9 years old by the time we replace them. And leasing costs typically cross over the purchase of between 3 and 4 years. So over the course of the long run, it's much cheaper for us to buy them. So, well, we have about 15 copiers in the town and schools, sorry, not schools, just the town, of varying speeds. We don't plan to replace them all at once because some of them are so low usage that even though the company that supports them was telling us they can't get parts and so on, we'll keep eking them out as long as we can. But the high volume ones, where we do a lot of printing, we need to get those changed out before they stop supporting. No, it's 15 total.
At the microphone to my right.
Good morning, Elisa Nakash in Holsberg, Betty Lane. Also through you, Madam Moderator, if I may, to Mr. Wells. Does that mean does that mean $10,000 per copier? And the reason why I'm asking is in terms of the cost benefit analysis of leasing, because I've actually done this cost benefit analysis myself recently. I'm wondering if it does make sense to lease, because now you're able to swap it in every couple of years, stay up with newer technology and advancements, and you don't have to deal with failing old equipment that it's difficult to find parts for and gets expensive to maintain.
Mike, do you want to answer that?
We don't see a lot of problems with the copiers. They're working well within the volume projections that the manufacturers have for them. We don't see a lot of failures of them. Really, the only thing pushing us to do something is the threat from the manufacturers to stop supporting them. So to me, in the long, since we deal in long-term cycles and long-term costs in government, it makes much more sense to buy them outright.
Thank you.
At the microphone to my left.
Good morning. This is Raymond, number 2 Trooping Way. Yeah, I have a general question. Just trying to understand, how do you normally come up with the numbers? Is it based on the historic price, or do you evaluate multiple vendors and pick the best one? Thank you.
Are we still talking about the copiers, sir?
Well, sorry. Yeah. In general, for example, I'm more like caring about the HVAC unit and trying HVAC unit.
I think these are, yeah. Town Manager Kristen Loss.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Kristen Lass, your town manager. For all of the capital items you see under Article 5, there's a very rigorous process in which our department heads go through. They collect estimates. They don't just collect one estimate. Then they bring it to the Capital Planning Committee, which consists of a multitude of members who vet that information. And then we bring it forward to the Finance Committee and the Select Board for consideration. So all of these items have been vetted. We've received estimates, and we obtain the greatest value we can for our residents.
At the center microphone.
Kathleen Princey, 111 Depot Street. To replace the Nabnasset School elementary curbing for $40,000, if the town does indeed vote for the feasibility and replace the school or decide that the school is going to close, are you still planning to replace the curbs?
Now, you said Nabnasset School. Did you mean
I'm
Robinson?
sorry, Robinson, yes, thank you.
Okay. Kristen?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we do plan to replace the curb as if the feasibility study is approved and moves forward. And then we move forward with construction. If there is construction on that site, we see the school being in use for at least 4 to 5 additional years. That's how long it takes to go through design and then bidding and then construction.
Thank you.
Sir, at the center microphone.
Hi, Mike Kusa at 10 Fieldstone Drive. I have a question about the Department of Public Works bucket truck. I can see the recommendation from the Capital Planning Committee is not unanimous. Can we please hear from Capital Planning Committee for folks who voted for and for a person who voted against on that $250,000 expense? Thank you.
All right, we have the chair of the Finance Committee, and
I am the representative on the Capital Planning Committee, and I was a dissenting vote on that bucket truck. So it's me.
You should give them your name because I didn't say it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Christina Green. I originally voted against the bucket truck because it was a new service being added to the town's existing level of service. And in this condition, our fiscal condition right now, I didn't think it was a worthwhile investment at this point. I thought we could investigate renting out trucks. Once we got to the Finance Committee vote, I did end up voting for it because we had some other information that the existing truck that we were using was no longer going to be usable.
Thank you.
And again, at the center microphone.
Good morning, Madam Moderator. My name is Wayne Fernal, 3 Brewbrook Lane. Just a point of order. This hold item for the technology for the copiers, isn't it appropriate to vote on that hold item and then vote on the rest of it? Or we're discussing all the other items under the total motion?
If you wish to separate it, we can do that. Which one are you talking about?
Well, it was the one that was held, technology transfer to copiers for the $150,000.
So the copier item.
Right.
There's general consensus we should vote on that separately. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and vote on it separately. Won't take long. At the center microphone.
Hi, Rachel Pokrovsky, 10 Newport Drive. I just want to speak up on behalf of the copiers, somebody who works at a school library. They are really overused. We've gone through 2 drums. I'm not in Westford, but like we've gone through 2 or 3 drums that are supposed to last the lifetime of the copier. Teachers don't have as many textbooks. They're literally printing out like all of the resources for students. So I understand what they're going through and I support the copiers.
And at the center microphone again, sir?
This is Doug Burns, 4 Black Bear Lane. So I'd like to separate out the Robinson School curbing. I'd like to see the pedestrian safety issues broken out and separately discussed.
Which ones are those, sir?
That's DPW engineering for $150,000.
Okay, got it.
And I'd like to understand the water enterprise, $58,000 for surveillance cameras, exactly what that is entailing. I mean, do we use door ring bells as opposed to some expensive system? Who's monitoring it? And I'd like to understand that before we spend the money. And
Let's get an answer to that. That's a question. So let's get an answer to that, and then I'll let you ask your second question. Mark Warren, Water Superintendent. The question is the money for the surveillance cameras, if we can get an explanation.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good morning, everyone. So yes, the surveillance cameras are for our Forge water treatment plant facility. We currently don't have any surveillance cameras there right now. Really, it's just an attempt to improve security. That's basically it. I believe the cameras will be monitored by myself. I am working along with the IT department as far as purchasing the cameras. Does that answer your question?
So my question is that, you know, I can go to Costco and buy a 8-camera system for a couple $1,000. Sure.
Well, I think the town managers answered the question about what the process is for coming up with these numbers and the actual items that they're requesting.
Okay, so I understand why they want to do it. I'm in agreement with that. $58,000 for cameras?
Sure. So you know what? Mike, I hate to do this to you, but I'm not the camera expert. Perhaps IT could provide me some assistance with this question. No? Okay, not. Yeah, so like I said, I have been working with our IT department. These are the cameras that I recommended. Again, I'm not really an expert on surveillance cameras, but my understanding is that they will do the job. This is what we need.
Okay, so I'd like to have that voted on separately.
All right, we've got a couple of requests. Okay, before we go there, Kristen Moss.
So I'd just like to clarify the question. So you're asking why we can't just go to a Costco or Amazon to purchase ring type cameras, is that correct?
So I use that as examples,
Sure.
as reference points. But I know you can get surveillance cameras for significantly less than $60,000. So I'm trying to understand, what are we putting in for $60,000?
Sure. So we're putting in a number of cameras at our Forge treatment plant under this article. And the cameras will be able to integrate with our existing camera system and then to integrate into our system that backs everything up. So we can keep the footage for a fair amount of time.
Sure.
So we cannot purchase cameras that do not currently integrate with our existing system. The cost of the cameras is $58,000 and change. So that is where we're moving towards in that direction.
Okay.
Denali Delmar, 8 Dunstable Road. I have a point of order. It is my understanding from past town meetings, many past town meetings, that when you read a whole list of expenses, people are required to put, say, hold on a specific item. There has only been one hold placed, and there have been questions asked about other things. And I would like to be, has something changed?
No, nothing's changed other than the fact that people are entitled to be heard, and I like to make sure that they are. So what I'd like to do at this point is go through the things I actually have 3 things that actual holds were put on, maybe 4, including that last one. And I'd like to go through that and see it, and let's see if people want to vote on them separately. And if not, put them right back in the article and they'll be voted along with anyone else. Does that
Thank you.
sound good?
Okay.
Okay. Sir, do you have a question about one of the things that we have a hold on?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Do I have to say my name again? Justin Loker of 103 Russell's Way. I think the gentleman before me raised interesting questions about the surveillance cameras. Does the town feel that there is a sufficient security risk that's not being mitigated by the current surveillance system to justify spending another $58,000 on newer additional cameras?
Okay.
Hi again, I'm Mark Warren, Westford Water Superintendent. So currently we don't have any surveillance cameras at any of our facilities. So these are initial installations.
I guess the question is, do you feel that there's sufficient security risk to install these cameras?
I do. We're a public water supplier, and I think we're living in a volatile world, and I do think they're important.
Okay. All right. So as moderator, I do have the authority to either say we're going to vote on these separately or not, but I'd like to get a sense of the room. So I'm going to ask you to take a voice vote on whether or not the following items should be voted separately. Take them one at a time, okay? We'll try to get through it quickly. $150,000 for town copier replacement. All in favor of voting that separately, say aye. All opposed? That's a no. $40,000 to replace the Robinson Elementary School curbing. All in favor of taking that separately, say aye. All opposed, say no. Saying it loudly still doesn't make you have any more than one vote. All right. $150,000 for pedestrian safety at Pleasant Street and Patton Road for the improvements. All in favor of taking that separately, say aye. All opposed? So no. And $58,408 for surveillance camera replacements. All in favor of taking that separately, say aye. Opposed? Okay. None of those have a sufficient amount of opposition to take them separately. So we're going to now go to the vote on the entire article. First motion of Article 5. So if you are in favor of The expenditures outlined in the first motion of Article 5. When I say voting's open, you'll press the green 1A button. If you're opposed, you'll press the red 2B button. This vote requires a majority only. Voting is open. We're going to close the vote in a second. Last chance. Voting is now closed. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm making Mike do all the turning around this time. So,
It passed 352 to 30.
the motion passes 352 yes to 42 no. The second motion under Article 5 requires a 2/3 majority to pass. The motion is that the town appropriate $1,385,000 to purchase and equip a new rescue pumper fire truck for the fire department, and that the town be authorized to borrow and issue bonds therefore. Is there a second to that motion? All right. Are there any questions or comments about this article, this part of Article 5? Seeing none, we'll go right to the vote. This requires a 2/3 majority, so we'll definitely be using our clickers again. Voting is now open. If you're in favor, press the green 1A. If you're opposed, press the red 2B. We're about to close the vote. Last chance. Okay, voting is now closed.
342 to 51.
The motion passes 342 yes to 51 no. The third motion under Article 5 requires a 2/3 majority to pass. And the motion is that the town appropriate $800,000 for pedestrian safety improvements at the area around the intersection of West Street and North Main Street, and authorize borrowing and bonding therefore. Is there a second to that motion? I see a couple people approaching the microphone. I'm going to take this gentleman first.
Andrew Pokrovsky, 10 Newport Drive. I would just like to hear a little more details about what is involved in this project.
Sure. Jeremy Downs, Assistant Town Engineer.
Good morning. This capital request would fund the construction of pedestrian safety improvements at the intersection of West Street and North Main Street. The improvements will include the realignment of the intersection to reduce vehicle speeds turning onto West Street, increase the overall sight distance at the intersection, and reduce the crossing distance required at the West Street crosswalk. Rapid flashing beacons, new pavement markings, and curb ramps will also be installed on North Main Street in front of the St. Catherine Church to address safety issues at the existing mid-block crosswalk.
Thank you.
And sir, at the center microphone.
Okay, so given that the town is always given an issue about money, we don't have money, we don't have money. I look at this as a luxury item. Oh, excuse me, thank you. My name is Doug Burns, 4 Black Bear Lane. And I look at this as a luxury item. It's not $800,000. We just voted $150,000 in the previous motion for pedestrian safety plus, oh, that's a different place. Sorry, excuse me. So it's $800,000. And in this time of trying to be fiscally responsible, I don't think the town should be expanding its reach into different areas where we don't have the money. We're always saying we're broke, we need money for schools, we need money for raises for people. And yet we're spending money on the roadway. And unless the police department is telling me that this is a significant hazard for crossing, and I know on Sundays they have a police officer detail at the church. Not always maybe, but okay. I don't see the justification. Thank you.
Thank you. At the microphone to my right.
Hi, Lindsay Velcourt, 23 Abbott Street. I'm just looking to see how this happens that you would get this kind of consideration. There's certainly plenty of other places in town. I'm just looking to see the steps to take to get to this point to get this fixed.
Thank you. And Kristen Lost, Town Manager.
So the town uses a variety of items to understand where our needs are related to pedestrian safety. One is crash data that we obtain from the police department. We also obtain traffic counts through our engineering department and through our regional planning commission. We also have a pedestrian safety committee that works on a monthly basis to understand where there are needs for sidewalks or pedestrian crossings. And this is an area where all three of those converged into a need for this type of project. We also had outreach with St. Catherine's Church in this, and there is a high pedestrian crossing related to the school right up the street as well. So those factors led us to this project at this point in time.
Good morning,
The
Elizabeth.
popular microphone on my right.
Elizabeth Almeida, 41 West Street. I live a half mile from this intersection. I have middle schoolers that cross the road every day. And I drive through the intersection during school hours and even after school hours. And just yesterday, there were kids coming out of the woods to cross. With the shadows, it was hard to see them. Traffic's quick, moving quickly around that corner. I think it's not long before we have an accident there with middle school children. So I support this motion. Thank you.
At the microphone to
Hey,
the right.
Arnie Price, Oak Hill Road. So on this, I was, one of the questions I was going to ask was how it came about. And thank you, Kristen, for answering that. But this is $800,000. We're talking safety. If you just go a block or two down the street, we closed the fire station because we can't man it because there's a lack of funding. I mean, this seems to be a nice to have rather than a full need. I mean, in my opinion. The fire station is important. And what are you trading off? Thank you.
At the microphone to my left.
Elizabeth Sawyer, Holly Lane, former employee of the day school, and the police record should have one of my calls reporting a near miss of a child walking to school who came into the office to report it, and the substitute teacher who witnessed the entire thing.
At the center microphone.
Hi, Ann Sawyer Ford, 8 Butternut Road. Just a clarification question. Would this create a sidewalk that extends from St. Catherine's Church down to day school?
Jeremy Downs.
There's already a sidewalk that extends down to the day school
On
on the
opposite side of the road?
opposite side of the road.
Okay,
So you would use that crosswalk at, in front of St. Catherine's.
Okay, so just to ask for people to consider voting for this. As a former parent at day school, there are often overflow parking situations for any nighttime meetings, and people do park up at St. Catherine's Church and then have to walk down. So there's a lot of foot traffic that's happening there, a lot of near misses for just myself with people speeding along that road at night. Thank you.
At the microphone to my right.
Yeah, hi, John Gerstenlauer, 2 Cutter Lane. I am a licensed professional engineer and constructor as well. I would suggest that I've heard a few comments about this being a luxury. I would agree, 800 grand to solve that kind of problem. I'll bet you for a lot less money, you can put in some of those really obnoxious speed bumps or the really extra obnoxious speed humps with some signs there. I've seen it in Dubai. I've seen it in other places around here in the United States. You put those really bad speed bumps and put signs, watch out, you're going to lose your undercarriage. And I'll bet you that'll cost you less than 800 grand. Thank you.
You want to address it? Okay. At the center microphone, please.
Alan Martin, Meadow Lane. If I recall correctly, at the supplemental town meeting, a 25-mile-an-hour speed zone was passed by the town and has not been erected in that area. And now we're being asked to expend $800,000 to realign the road when the speed limit signs haven't been changed.
Jeremy Downs.
Yeah, a few years ago, there were a few roads that were posted for 25, but this area wasn't one of them.
This was at the last town meeting, not a few years ago.
All right. Seeing no other, oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
At the microphone to my left.
Elizabeth Sobey, 11 Cherry Lane. As a parent that drives to this intersection for school, which is not year-round, $800,000 seems an astronomical amount to spend when we could put a crossing guard in, we could put signage, we couple stop signs, make it a three-way stop, and put some more effects in there. The children are still going to cut through the traffic. I think $800,000 seems like a lot that could be put in a different intersection that seems more dangerous.
And again, at the microphone to my left.
Hi, Dave LeBlue, Concord Road. I'm the business manager at St. Catherine's there. And I'm in favor of the changes to the intersection. As a matter of fact, St. Catherine's is going to give up a little bit of land to make that a 90-degree turn. I'm not sure if anybody's mentioned that there's no way for a bus coming from West Street to take a right-hand turn without crossing into the opposite lane. Crossing the street in front of St. Catherine's or anywhere in that area during the day even, I feel like you take your life into your hands because the visibility is so poor on North Main Street going around that corner. That's not even to take into account how dangerous it is for the kids who cross the street from North Main to get to West Street to go down to Blanchard. I see it all the time. They round the corner, they cross the street. The visibility there is just horrible. And I would say it's probably a major safety issue in town. And as far as someone mentioning that there's a police detail there on the weekends, the police officer goes there, and if he gets called away, he gets called away. So we've had to pay for police details on Saturday nights just to make sure our parishioners don't get run over crossing the street. And one other point, other than Kimball's, St. Catherine's is one of the few places in town that has a major parking lot that many people have to cross during normal hours. So I hope you will vote in favor of the warrant. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take the two people at the microphone, and that'll be it for this motion. Sir, on my right.
Good morning, Michael Beston, 7 Adams Lane. Speaking of mitigating things, could anyone answer whether or not it's legal to put speed bumps on that road?
We'll get you an answer to that.
It may be legal, but not advisable.
Okay, if you have a question to my left.
Christy Bates, Pierce Avenue. $800,000 is being borrowed, so I'd like to know what the dollar amount is per year, what the impact is. This probably money
We'll get the
well
finance
spent.
director to answer.
Thank you.
It's about $98,000 per year over a 10-year loan.
All right. Quickly, Elisa.
I would like to ask why it's unadvisable. I drive through Belmont and go through the
Okay, we
speed
get the
bumps
question.
regularly.
We get the
Thank you.
question.
But I also have one more thing, Madam Moderator. I believe it's always okay to offer a resolution, and you can decide, obviously, if it's now or later.
Not right.
Okay,
not right yet.
very good.
If you want
Thank
to
you.
offer a resolution after we take the
Yes,
vote, you can
okay.
do that.
So these are two main collector roads in town, and we have looked at some smaller or minor roads in town for speed bumps. And there's just a whole number of reasons why we don't advise using them. They create issues with drainage. Vehicles tend to slow down right before the speed bump and then speed up right after. They also can do a lot of damage to vehicles over time. They're noisy, and then they really reduce emergency response.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I said I wasn't going to take any more folks after the two who were there, and I've already gone beyond that. So Let's call for the vote. This is a 2/3 vote. And we're going to use our clickers. If you're in favor of this article, you'll vote yes with the green 1A, opposed red with the 2B. Ready? Voting is now open. All right, I'm going to close the vote in a second. Voting is now closed.
269 to 131.
135.
Sorry? 269 to 131.
The motion passes. The vote is 269 yes, 131 no. Yes. The system automatically calculates if it's 2/3. Thank goodness. So I don't have to do any math. It's not my forte. Yes, it was close, but it passed. Okay, I'm sorry, Alyssa.
I would welcome your feedback here and your assistance, but I'd like to offer the town meeting resolve, and I don't know if it's for the town or the select board to evaluate whether signage for 25 miles an hour is appropriate for the area despite these improvements.
Okay, is there a second to the resolution? All right. I don't think we need any discussion on this unless people really feel the urge to speak. All right, let's vote then. We'll take a voice vote. All in favor of the resolution, please. Alyssa, where are you? Need to write it. Need to put it in writing. Okay, how about we do this? We hold off while Elisa's writing that and bringing it up, and we move on to the next motion under Article 5. Okay, the fourth motion under Article 5 asks that the town appropriate $2 million to purchase and install new synthetic turf at the Nutting Road fields and to authorize bonding and borrowing therefore. Is there a second to that motion? Okay. Are there questions or comments for this motion? Okay, at the center microphone.
Hi, I'm Shireen Kama, and I'm at Primrose Lane. I'm a physician and a parent, hopefully, of someone who will use these fields in the future. But my question is, was there a consideration of alternative products to the turf? Because there's documented health risks and environmental risks with AstroTurf, and I'm wondering if there were considerations of other sources.
We'll get you an answer to that. Mike Edwards, Assistant Town Manager.
Madam Moderator. Yes, we
Step closer.
got it. Yes, we have looked at both different synthetic materials as well as doing natural surface, doing sod. At the end of the day, after looking at all the pros and cons of each, the recommendation is to do artificial turf.
All right, is that the answer? At the microphone to my left.
Good morning, Sean Troy, 10 Orion Way. First, thanks everyone for being here. My family's very involved in lacrosse. Both my kids play here, raised my family here. I have some details. I took a red eye to get here on time, so apologies for writing them down so I wouldn't forget. A few key points I want to call out here is that per the company we've talked to, there's no PFAS in the material they want to use. It'll have upgraded padding, which means less injuries, less concussions to our children. Grass also requires ongoing maintenance above and beyond just the cost of installing this field. There is also a component here that we aren't talking about. This isn't purely an expense. This is a revenue generating item. It's not addressed here, but we charge for use of this field as a town we charge other towns and other private teams. Additionally, it's 2 million over 20 years of use. So about 100K a year plus generating revenue. So there is a net number here. I don't know what that number is, but there are a number of considerations here. I want to speak for the kids and say they love it. There's 1,000 smiling faces there a week. Let's keep them going in that direction, keep them safe, and keep concussions away from our children. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Please, no applause or boos. It's really just a waste of time. You can express your approval with your vote at that time. To my right?
Hi, James Coaches, 34 Forge Village. Professional sports are moving away from this, and professional sports have the resources to find or buy non-PFAS solutions and integrate all that. I hear a lot of debate about natural turf being more expensive because you got to buy new equipment and everything. We already have that equipment because we have grass fields in town now that we use. I have young kids that are in elementary right now. I don't want them playing on fields like this. We have internet for this one. We have Wi-Fi for this meeting, everybody. Google all the studies out there. Everyone's moving away from this. I think the mayor of Boston just came out and put an ordinance that you can't even buy this stuff anymore for Boston schools. So do yourself a favor, take a look at this. Nobody wants this stuff anymore. Everyone's moving away from it. We shouldn't be doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. At the center microphone, Tony?
Yeah, Anthony DeLeo, Bose Road. I had a question. The facilities down at Nutting were funded originally over 15 years ago through a partnership between the town and Westford Youth Soccer. And my question is, has the town approached organizations like Westford Youth Soccer to see if they could share in the cost?
Can we get an answer to that?
Can't speak specifically as to whether we've approached that organization, but as was mentioned previously, there will be revenues generated for this field for the rental. But in terms of the cost share, no.
I think he's answered, but I think he's saying that they have not.
Yeah, I would suggest that you do that because Westford Youth Soccer, and I was part of this, so I know the amounts. Westford Youth Soccer contributed a substantial amount of money, and they have a vested interest in using these fields. So I would suggest that we ask them.
Thank you. At the microphone to my left.
Patrick Copey, 51 Concord Road. My question is, why isn't this funding being paid for via the community preservation funds?
Official turf is not eligible for CPA funding.
And at the microphone to my right.
Aaron Hackinson, 5 Vinebrook Road. As a coach in town and having children that play both lacrosse and soccer, I'm on that turf 4 days a week. It is in terrible shape, and it's truly a risk for the children that we have out there. You have kids playing all the way up through WA there, and you're looking at ACL tears that could happen. Being on other turf, it definitely needs to be replaced, and my voice to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Doug Burns, 4 Black Bear Lane. I coached soccer for 12 years with my kids and other kids in town at Jack Walsh, which happens to be grass, and it's beautiful, and it's maintained a lot by the Westford Soccer Association. And so I look at this and saying it's $2 million that we don't have. Again, we're talking about the town's financial capacity. We're gonna borrow money again. We don't have this capacity. And I know you keep hearing it, and be prepared for it. Next year, there'll be a request for an override to the budgets again. So let's not spend our money here. We can put grass fields back in and maintain them. And yes, the turf fields are wonderful. They have a lot of advantages, but the grass fields are long-term cheaper to run. They're like cutting my lawn.
You want to respond? Mike, you need to get closer. Yeah.
That should be close enough. We did investigate the cost of converting this field to sod to grass. It was just over $2 million. You're talking about a complete different drainage system, irrigation. Looking at the long-term maintenance needs, you're adding around $100,000 a year to take care of natural grass between the chemicals, the need to restripe every 2 to 3 weeks during the season, as well as, given the size of this field, we more than likely would need close to an additional full-time person to do the maintenance. The other questions that come into play, and this directly speaks to the revenue question, is a grass field versus a turf field. We have a significantly longer playing season. We had between 1 to 3 months between weather and extending the season on either end. And on top of that, you do not need to rest the grass between activities. So you can essentially run a turf field nonstop during daylight hours anytime there's not snow on the ground. From a cost standpoint, everything that we have looked at shows that the artificial turf is a significantly different annual cost and an upfront purchase price.
Thank you. At the microphone to my left.
Hi, this is Mike Coach at 10 Fieldstone Drive. I've been coaching in town since 2013, and I can tell you that Notting Fields are very popular for coaching and for early springs, because as good as Jack Walt is, it's not usable right now in March. And Notting Field is usable. All the town programs use it very heavily, especially in the months of March, because we can't use Jack Walsh. So having 2 fields which we can't use will not benefit our kids. Now, my point is actually a question more to a finance committee in terms of revenues. For Notting Field, when I coach there, I've seen people with a private coaching program just use Notting Fields. I do not believe they're paying for it. So the question to the town, and I don't know who can answer this question, is how can enforce the commercial use and the paid use of the field better for people who come out of town and coach kids, potentially kids not from our
Okay.
town as well.
Sir, I really think that's beyond the scope of the motion. I would suggest that you talk offline about that with the people involved, but it doesn't really apply to whether or not we're going to approve this money for the replacement of the turf there.
All right, thank you. Just saying that there may be other revenue opportunities which we haven't monetized yet. Thank you.
Yes. The microphone to my right.
Andrew Pokrovsky, 10 Newport Drive. So on the subject of grass field maintenance, I coach soccer, and when we coach at Jack Walsh, the grass is generally extremely tall. This is not a knock on Parks Recreation, but they just don't have the capacity to fully maintain and cut the field to the standards that prevent injuries.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Hi, Kathleen Lollement, Timberley Lane. I'm a nurse, and initially I felt the same way. I did a lot of research prior to its installation, and I concur with the gentleman who was earlier here talking about the safety issues. But I'm also concerned because the expansion of the time the fields are used every year, the last several years, heavy duty trucks go on the field. This year with 2 huge bucket trucks, when the snow and ice was on the field at least a foot deep, and going back and forth over the surface, digging up the snow has an impact on the use of the fields and the construction and the maintenance of the fields. The fencing around the fields had been damaged because of things crashing into it in this condition. And again, when they first were supposed to be put up, there was supposed to be a barrier of emerald green.
I'm sorry, I just want to bring you back to the
Okay.
motion as to
Okay.
whether or not we should be voting yes or no on replacing the turf there.
Basically, I think for the safety of what, if people go into it a little bit more on their own, maybe we should table this to discuss it a little bit more. But I also think that the safety issue is paramount. And with the recreation department opening it up to earlier times for people out of town and whatnot, and in times when there's snow, I don't think there should be big trucks going on the field and digging up whatever they're digging up in addition to the snow, and also damaging the fencing. It's just a fact of life. So
Thank you very much. The microphone, I'm not going to take any more besides the people who are at the microphone. After they speak, we'll take the vote.
Elizabeth Stringer, 14.
Okay, just a minute. One more. All right, at the center microphone.
Justin Loker, 103 Russell's Way. So I've been a Westford resident since I was 1 year old in 2004. I've been playing on these fields since they were built, I believe in 2011 or so, and on Jack Walsh Field as well. And I've also refereed on these fields since 2017. The Nutting Field surface is in pretty rough shape. Someone mentioned that it's AstroTurf. It's not AstroTurf, but it might as well be AstroTurf because it does feel like concrete while playing out there. Jack Walsh Field is unusable for most of the year. Even when it's dry, it's not in great shape. And I think that Nutting Field serves a lot of value to our children. And I think it's worth spending money to upkeep the turf.
Thank you. At the microphone to my left.
Yes, I have two questions. One of them is, does the $2 million include maintenance for the new turf? Because you'll have to have different maintenance procedures, maybe different equipment, et
We'll
cetera.
get that answered. And
Okay.
your second question is?
My second question is why now? Why this year?
Okay.
Thank you for the question. So the maintenance is relatively minimal on the turf field, on the artificial turf field. We have annual testing at around $1,000. About every 2 years, we do have to restripe the field, which is significantly less than we would with a natural surface. The current cost to for maintenance is already built into our DPW budget for field maintenance because that's what we have now. In terms of why now, we have had to do a number of repairs in the last several years. They're expediting these repairs to get the fields open on time. We're at 14 years on a field that had an 8 to 10 year lifespan. If we continue to attempt to repair this, we are very much in risk of having to close that field down. We have 2 current spots based on the current testing that have exceeded the safety ratings for the annual testing that we have to do. We do have some mitigation in place for that if we need to. But why now is because we can actually plan and control for the replacement of that field in the downtime, which is estimated at 2 to 4 weeks. If we have to do that as emergency repair, or if we have to do that unplanned, we don't have any control over the timing. Speaking to the timing, if we were to look at any other surface, we'd be looking at a significantly longer downtime, upwards of a year.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, when I said I wasn't taking any more questions, I know the lady in the center was at the microphone. Were you at the microphone too? I know you had already spoken, so I'm going to ask you to sit down, please. June, at the center microphone.
Hi, my name's June McMorrow and I live on Kings Pine Road. And so I've been following this and watching some of the meetings and I know that CPA money had been used in the past and apparently the rule has been changed. And I think it was at a rec department meeting in early December. I did hear a question asked about whether CPA money could be used to install natural grass versus turf. And I'm pretty sure that somebody said they would get back to us on that. And I don't think anybody did. And I do pay attention to WestfordCAT.
Is that your question? Do you want to know if CPA?
Yeah, the question is, can CPA money be used to install real grass in comparison to whatever you're calling it now, turf, which apparently we can't do anymore?
All right, let's let Mike answer that.
Yes, CPA money can be used for natural surface grass. As I mentioned, the cost estimate that we just received on that was a little over $2 million, plus the additional cost we'd have to have with maintenance and upkeep.
And the cost for maintenance and upkeep, you said annually was what, 100,000? Is that what?
107 to 112,000, depending on a couple of different factors. What that doesn't include is we most likely would have to purchase an additional robot striping machine, simply due to capacity and the need to stripe that on a bi-weekly basis. So it's significantly higher annual maintenance costs.
Okay.
So I guess I'm just wondering why we're not doing that.
Okay.
If it's legal. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, June.
Additionally, one of the big factors in making the recommendation towards turf, in addition to all the other reasons we've already mentioned, is the downtime. If we were to do a sod surface, that field is out of commission
for upwards of a year.
Well, it's my understanding that some interests from out of town, some teams from out of town use it in
All right,
addition to our team.
June.
Maybe we don't allow that.
June, I just don't want to get into a back and forth here.
Okay,
but
all right, thank
I
you.
understand. I think that the meeting understands your position. Last comment.
Hi, Elizabeth Preston, Stoneview Drive. I am currently one of the coaches for the, sorry, I feel weird hearing myself, for the kindergarten youth soccer, but I think I know the answer. I just want it confirmed from the select board or whoever is in charge of this, but we're talking about putting the turf field that does not have the PFAS in it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to move to the vote now. This requires a 2/3 majority to pass. We're going to use our clickers. Same deal. If you want to vote yes, press the green 1A button. No, press the red 2B button. Voting is now open. I'm about to close the vote. Last chance to vote. Okay, voting is now closed. The motion fails to achieve a 2/3 majority. The vote is 217 in favor, 147 against. I'm sorry. 270 in favor, 147 against. All right, we disposed of Article 6 under the consent agenda, so we'll move on to Article 7. Under Article 7, I have a motion to appropriate $1,600,000 for a feasibility study to replace or upgrade the facilities for the Robinson School and to authorize borrowing to cover that amount, for which the town may be eligible for a grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Any borrowing authorized by this vote shall be reduced by the amount of any grant award, and the town shall be responsible for any costs incurred in excess of any grant amount received. Is there a second to the motion? Yes.
Ellen Hardy, and I'm speaking as what is my official title?
Meeting mentor.
Meeting mentor.
Meeting mentor number 1.
A voter just asked for clarification that on the previous motion, we did in fact vote on the stormwater enterprise and the ambulance enterprise. My memory fails me. Could you just clarify that for us before we move on to this motion on the floor?
Yes, we did, though there were no holds on those, so they
Thank
got
you.
voted with the rest.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Angela.
All right. We have Valerie Young, who's the chair of the school committee and the chair of the Robinson School Feasibility Study Committee, who's going to explain a little about this article.
Good morning, everybody. We are gathering the Robinson School Building Committee up front so you can see who's been meeting since December or January when Select Board appointed this great committee. We have representation from several boards and committees, as well as 3 residents with a wealth of knowledge in school construction and the MSBA process, Allison, Steve, and Lindsay. So it's been a really great process working together. And we can start the slideshow for slide 2. Oh, click forward. Thank you. Nope. Okay, great. So we just wanted to start by explaining feasibility study is a term that can carry a lot of different meanings. This specific article is for a feasibility study for the Robinson School upgrade or replacement that will cover expert analysis, architectural planning, environmental studies, and detailed cost projections, as well as community outreach for all of the following steps. This is a required step as part of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, which is the grant program that helps with repairs and new school construction. And Westford will be reimbursed 48.05% of the eligible costs for this feasibility study, making this cost approximately $830,000. This article is not a debt exclusion. It does not override your property tax amount. It is built into the FY26 budget with a short-term interest payment, and it does not require a ballot vote, and it does not, today's vote does not authorize a future construction or renovation project.
So the study evaluates the school's current conditions and explores a range of potential outcomes, recommending the most cost-effective and educationally appropriate solution. Working with the MSBA requires studying 4 outcomes: making no changes, bringing Robinson up to code, renovating Robinson potentially with additions, or building a new building. Now for us, a new building would also explore 3 other options: replacing Robinson with another pre-K to 2 building, or 2 options for consolidating and reconfiguring our current grade structure to make each of our elementary schools pre-K to 5. We could consolidate Robinson and Abbott, resulting in 5 elementary schools, or a larger building to consolidate Robinson with Abbott and Day, leaving us with only 4 elementary schools, further reducing our annual operating costs. So why Robinson? In 2023, the facilities report identified Robinson's open suite floor plan as our major educational and facility challenge. And the MSBA prioritizes projects that are of the greatest needs across the entire state. And they recognized our willingness to explore consolidation as it would have the largest impact on our community. Now I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chair Lindsay Richard.
So the 1.6 million for this feasibility study was developed by the committee based on the scope of work that is required to achieve the objectives of both the MSBA during this process, as well as the district, to properly evaluate the options that Dr. Chu just went through. The first step, if approved, would be to hire an owner's project manager. This firm would stay on through the duration of a project if a project were to move forward. But this firm will procure and negotiate all of the contracts for all of the scopes of work for the consultants under this study. That OPM represents the town in the district through the process. We would also hire an architect and engineers through the MSBA designer selection panel, 2 members of which the deciding panel would be representatives from the town. And the architect, which is the largest portion of the fee here, they really will be looking at all of the options that Dr. Chu outlined and going into the existing Robinson School building, and with their code consultants and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers, really looking at the building after developing a space plan and program with the district and the school and the community, and really looking at the existing building and figuring out how we could renovate it to meet the future needs of the Robinson School and the overall district. They will also look at the existing Robinson site and look at where an addition or a new building could be placed, looking at utility connections, roadways, considering traffic flow, topography. We'd be doing environmental studies, soil testing to really inform the cost of a potential project, whether it be renovating Robinson, adding to Robinson. We're also going to study a second site because zooming out, looking holistically at the schools in the district, as Dr. Chu mentioned, as an opportunity potentially to consolidate schools, figuring out at a second site, which is yet to be identified, doing the same types of studies in space planning. The work of the architect and the consultants will be over 9 to 12 months and will serve as the basis of design if a future project is approved by the town. But ultimately, getting true cost estimates on all of these options and also matching with the desired program for the future of the Robinson School community and the other students in Westford is really an important objective of this work.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Quickly, please.
This slide identifies the priority capital needs for Robinson, Abbott, and Norman Day schools over the next 5 to 10 years. Roofing, HVAC, fire suppression, and parking lot replacements are just some of the upgrades that these schools will require. What's important to note is that these cost estimates represent 2023 pricing, so an escalation factor would need to be applied for each year these projects are deferred. What's also important to recognize is that if the town were to pursue significant renovations in any of these buildings, it may trigger the buildings being brought up to full code compliance with ADA accessibility and fire suppression. Depending on the outcome and recommendations from the MSBA feasibility study, there's a scenario in which the student populations of all three of these schools could be potentially consolidated into one new school building, thus eliminating the need to invest in all the projects identified on this slide.
Thank you very much. Did you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, we have a time limit for the presentation. There's plenty of information. We look forward to your questions.
Okay, any comments or questions? At the center microphone.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Vicky Geary, 51 Carlisle Road. The League of Women Voters of Westford strongly supports the funding of the feasibility study to replace or upgrade the Robinson School. Our support is based on our longstanding education position that calls for, quote, a physical plant which allows sufficient space for a variety of learning experiences and provides each student with equal facilities and opportunities. The Robinson School does not provide sufficient space for the learning experiences its students deserve and need, nor does it provide its students with the facilities and opportunities that are equal to what is offered at Westford's other K through 2 grade schools, Nabnasset and Miller. The state will, and this is very important to remember, the state will reimburse the town over 48% of that $1.6 million cost. So that's not our real cost. It is also important to note that the feasibility study will not just benefit the Robinson community, but it will also look at the other elementary schools to ensure that they are both educationally sound and being used in an economically efficient manner. So therefore, we urge you to vote yes on this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan, microphone to my right.
Thank you. Megan Eckroth, Timberley Lane. I just wanted to say ahead of this vote, I'm a parent in town. I'm a teacher in town. I teach at the day school. I've also taught at the Abbott School. As a former school committee member, I've toured all of these schools. And I just wanted to say, in light of the vote that just happened and this, our town population, according to our 24 census, is roughly 25,000. Of that, approximately 32% is 18 and under. They're not in this room because they can't vote. They go to these schools, they play on these fields, and they deserve a voting body in this room that understands their needs and looks to the future. Voting no against the field doesn't make it grass. It just makes us go, well, what now? Nothing. Our kids get injured. So fast forward to this, all three of these buildings are, I want to say, in varying levels of dire need of repair, reconstruction, consideration for what the current needs of our student population is, which is different from when we went to school, when our kids went to school, when our grandkids went to school. I promise you that this is incredibly important. MSBA funding is dependent on the town body voting for it at this time. We will lose it if we do not approve this. And then we can't just sit there and say, well, then what? There isn't another solution. The funding goes away, we vote no, and fast forward to saying, well, a fire department was closed. Yes, because we voted against the override. You did that. So I'm frustrated by people that don't understand the consequences of their votes. It's not about money, 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 but it is about prioritizing the needs of this town. And when a third of your town cannot be here to speak for what they need, it is our duty to vote on their behalf. Please vote yes.
At the microphone, please. At the microphone to my left.
Hi, Ryan Rawl, 62 Providence Road. I know many people are going to speak about the education and the benefits. I'm not going to focus on that. I want to focus and speak to the fiscal conservatives in the room. And the reason I say that is because when we had our last controversial town meeting, there's a lot of discussion about the schools are getting, the number of students are getting smaller. We need to make better financial decisions about how we're going to educate our kids in a fiscally responsible way. This plan is exactly what a fiscal conservative should want. This is going to tell us how we don't make the wrong decision. If you go back to the very quick PowerPoint you put on, $10 million for each building. We don't want to spend money that we don't need to spend fixing buildings that we can consolidate when we can come up with a plan and find a fiscally beneficial way to protect our future. From my perspective, this is a no-brainer. If we don't spend the money now and try to plan out how to maximize what we have and how to protect our investments as taxpayers, when you wait, you always spend more. When you delay, you always spend more. And so my point is, think of this as, this is a study to tell you all the things. We just heard a discussion about town copiers. People want to know all the alternatives to the nutting field. You won't know any of that if we don't do this study. We won't be informed voters when we finally have to make the decision about what to do with our school buildings if we don't do this study. So please vote yes for fiscal responsibility in the future.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Doug Burns, 4 Black Bear Lane. You know, I agree with what was just said, but this is not the way to do it. We had 3 schools listed up there that we're saying, oh, we need to spend money here, we need to spend money here, but we're presenting a plan for one thing. Why are we not presenting a plan for how are we going to evaluate the town's needs for schooling, not for a school? And this is how the town nickel and dimes us with project after project after project. Come up with a full, realistic plan for what we need for schools, whether we're going to consolidate or build new schools, whatever. I don't believe that is what this committee is doing. It's about the Robinson School. The Robinson School was built as an open classroom thing because that's what the school committee told us was the most efficient thing to do at the time. I remember being in those meetings and voting against that. But now they're telling us we need to change that. So I think we need to vote this down and ask the group to come back with a complete holistic solution for the town of Westford schooling and the students, not piece by piece. Thank you.
I'm going to allow a response to that.
Thank you, sir.
Please.
Thank you, sir. This actually, this is an opportunity to do so. When we issued the statement of interest for Robinson, when the MSBA invited us to do so in the eligibility period, part of the statement of interest includes additional buildings, and the MSBA inviting us to do so appreciates that we're going to look at consolidation as a way to save both the state and the district money in the future. So when we hire the architect to look at the Robinson School building, they are also going to work with the committee and others to look at the Abbott School, the day school, and overall space usage across the Westford Public Schools to figure out how this opportunity to get reimbursed by the MSBA process for a Robinson School project can actually be one piece in the overall district planning.
I think the question was, the comment was about an overall plan. So
I would just say, yes, to your question about the overall plan, I would respectfully just say that we have a 6-minute presentation today to share with you one aspect of that plan. We have actually been talking about our plan for the last couple of years, and we are looking at the full district, all of the buildings in the district. We're looking at all of these different things that we need to be doing with our schools. But this is the one specific item that comes before town meeting today for you to vote on this specific option. So that's why we're not able to share with you a full comprehensive plan as to what we're doing. We're saying, to some of the other points that have been made, that this is allowing us to get more information so that then we can bring back to the voters what more comprehensive plans look like.
thank you. I'm not going to allow any back and forth. I appreciate your comment, and the comments been responded to. Sir, microphone on my right.
Steve Brierly, 16 Phillips Drive. I'm very much in favor of this proposal. My kids went to Robinson, my grandkids are there now. It needs help. I have a question though, excuse me, about the costing of the study. When I went on the website for the building committee, I believe I saw something that said the owner's rep, which you used to call clerk of the works, is required for a program over $1.5 million. I look at your breakdown of budgets. If you take $250,000 out of what you spend for the owner's rep, you're under 1.5 million and you don't need one. Clerks of the works are used for construction projects to make sure the builder actually does what the architect's plans call for. This is just a study. And I don't understand why we really need an owner's rep clerk of the works for a study. And, you know, kind of chicken and the egg, because it's in there, it puts it over 1.5 million, so we need it. Take it out, we don't need it, you can save money.
So a quick response to whether or not we need a clerk of the works.
The Massachusetts general law requires an owner's project manager for a feasibility study for the MSBA project process. A clerk of the works is actually a different role than the owner's project manager.
Okay.
At the microphone to my left.
Hi, Sundar Subramanian, 63 Hildred. My question is twofold. One, does the school committee have a preference what to do? Do you want to go towards consolidation of the 3 schools? If so, why do you even need a feasible study? Can you direct the funds to go and see how to make that happen rather than have a feasibility study that provides you with a menu of options? Why don't you pick 1 or 2 and then, you know, redirect the funds more efficiently?
I can't speak for the entire school committee. We didn't discuss that specific thing. We've had presentations on each piece of this. And I would say that the school committee is in favor of long-term operational efficiencies that we think could come from consolidation. We've also talked about the priority to go to a pre-K to 5 school building because of the flexibility that gives. And so that was the first part of your question, right?
Right.
The other part of the question was, why do you need a feasibility study?
Yeah, I hear you, and I hear the sticker shock. It is a requirement. So if we don't do this study, we lose out on all future, we lose out on this step of future grants with the MSBA.
Thank you.
They tied our hands, yeah.
At the center microphone.
George Murray, 14 Haywood Road. I've had mixed feelings on this, as some of you know. We've got 15 years of actual data saying that elementary school enrollments are continuing to decline. I've studied enrollments and I've studied building utilization. What I don't have good information on is what's the answer to how to organize our schools. So point number 1, I think the school committee needs to bring forth data, if there is any, as to the advantage of a K to 5 organization versus K to 2 and 3 to 5. When we went to K to 2, 3 to 5, we didn't have any data that said it was any better. It just kind of fit what we had for schools. And that was okay at the time. So there are 100 imponderables here, but I think it should start with the school committee deciding what kind of organization they want, and then look at what we've got. And the only way rationally to look at what we've got is with the process that the state defines, which is basically a very good one. It's a pain in the neck sometimes, but in the buildings that we've built, I know the hallways would all be narrower if there weren't state requirements saying how wide the hallways need to be, because it would be cheaper. Okay, and so the state, although they are a pain in the neck, has a process for keeping us on track, and it's one I think we need to support. But we need to get the data. A footnote, one additional piece of data, I've talked to several people, and I'm not sure how many people know this. The Blanchard School was built to be expanded, and it's never been, I don't think it's even been proposed. But the core facilities at Blanchard are sized for a 1,200 population, and it currently has 900. So let's get all the data. And with that background, I do support this article. I swallow hard at the cost, but You know, sometimes there's only one way to get to the end that you want, and that's to follow the process.
Thank you, George. Microphone to my right.
Elizabeth Almeida, 41 West Street. To get funding for the new building or a potential new building that will allow us as taxpayers of this town to pay less towards that project in the long term. I understand that Acton had a similar study recently where they did the same type of thing. They ended up tearing down their buildings, and that was paid for through the same MSPCA project, and we're able to get that funding to bring to the town a chunk of 48.05% of the cost of the future building. And if we do not participate in this study, we will lose access to that money.
Thank you. Center microphone.
Paul Fossbender, Texas Road. I really appreciate the message from the fiscal conservatives who spoke earlier. Reminded me that when we were at town meeting approving the library expansion, we basically spent our historic average for excluded debt for the next 15 years or so. I'm just very concerned that if we do a study like this, or as we see capital projects coming forward, that the groups making the proposals are doing this in context and are looking at the impact on the taxpayers long term. Any additional excluded debt, by my understanding, is going to result in dramatic increases in property tax and so forth. So it would be really helpful, especially in this environment where we're talking about potential overrides and so forth, to make sure that we're really watching that we don't price our property taxes out of sight.
Okay. We'll get a response from the town manager regarding your question about whether we're paying attention to that.
Thank you for your comment. Just want to remind the town meeting members today that this is for a feasibility study. If there is a project in the future that requires a debt exclusion, that would require a future town meeting and a future vote of the entire town who are eligible to vote. I myself sit on the Robinson School feasibility study. We have others as the select board members, school committee members, so we are conscious of our fiscal responsibility and our debt exclusions moving forward. So just want to make that point to the voters here today. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take the people standing at the microphone now, and then we'll proceed to a vote. That's clear that somebody wants us to proceed to a vote. Okay, the microphone on my left, on my right.
Good morning. My name is John Amato. I live at 88 Chamberlain Road here in Westford. I have a couple of questions and a comment. The first question is, and it's based on experience, in my business, I occasionally have to have my clients apply for grants. Qualifying for a grant doesn't mean you'll receive a grant. It means that there's a likelihood, but you're in the approved pile. So where do we fit in the overall food chain of qualifying to receiving?
Let's get an answer to that. How many questions do you have, John?
What?
How many questions do you have?
2.
I'm just, okay, I just want to know. Let's get an answer to the first one, then you can go to the second one.
Sure. So that we are in, right now, we are in the Massachusetts School Building Authority pipeline, they call it, right? So
Right.
there are 9 phases to that. We're in the eligibility phase right now, in which case they have told us that the reimbursement is 48.05% of the cost. So your vote today would allow us to move to the next phase within that process. As long as the local community continues to support the process, then the MSBA continues to work with us. So it's not like we've put in our original application that you mentioned was when we submitted the statement of interest for Robinson in the first place. And you're only allowed to submit a statement of interest for one building. That's the MSBA rules. So that's one of the reasons why they were very interested in our willingness for consolidation. So our application that you're talking about was that statement of interest. Once they reviewed that statement of interest, they sent a team out here to look at the Robinson School. They assessed that it was one of the greatest needs in the state as far as the number of grantees that they invite each year into this process. And so then they invited us, they sent the letter to the town, letting us know that we would be in this process. So that's why we went through this process for the eligibility phase, which requires us to establish a Robinson School Building Committee and go through all of this process bringing this information to you. So that grant is ours if you continue to support this process. It's a very similar thing that Chelmsford is actually doing right now because Chelmsford is actually in this process as well. They're just a couple of months ahead of us.
So.
And your second question?
Well, this is actually a follow-up, please. And so what you're saying is that there's a chance we won't get this grant.
We won't get this grant if the feasibility study is not passed by town meeting. If the feasibility study is supported in this vote right now, then we continue through that process. And so then we would be bringing the outcome of the feasibility study to you. Any cost to that study would be reimbursed. So that 48.05% of any of the costs of the feasibility study will be reimbursed to the town. That is a guarantee from the MSBA, yes. So I think that was your question. Yeah, it's not like
That was really my question there. My second question is a more global question. We just finished up, or in the process of finishing up, a town-wide facility master plan. And that master plan came up with expectations for more space. Through the school study at the Robinson, is any thinking going into the opportunity to move office space, for example, into a school and renovate so that we're not building multiple buildings and building up our tax base over time? Is there any overlap?
I will say yes. I mean, we're just further along in this process than the town is in the whole master plan that they're doing right now. But they're aware of the fact that if the Robinson or the Abbott or the Day buildings became available, that it would be an opportunity for the town to consider utilizing those spaces. But it is sort of which comes first, right? And so that's one of the challenges that we have. And the other thing that when people have asked the question about if there's preferences, in working with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, as they are providing 48% of the costs of the feasibility study and of any future project, if the town decides to move forward with that, they require us to look at all of these different options. And so one of the things is it's difficult for us to go in, we can't go into the feasibility study with our preference because that they want it to be a third party that comes in and evaluates everything and then advises us on that. So when people are asking, well, what is it that we would prefer to do? We can't really say that without that data yet. And that's just a piece in working with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Thank you very much.
At the center microphone, please.
Michael Patton, 53 Plain Road. I'm the PTBC chair, and I actually was a member of the Robinson Committee. Unfortunately, I had a schedule conflict. I wasn't able to make most of the meetings. First, I want to comment on something Jeff said, which I think is important about renovations. So there's something in building codes that states over a certain percentage of cost, you have to renovate your entire building. I think everyone here agrees ultimately something needs to be done to Robinson, other facilities in town. We could be putting ourselves in a situation where the necessary renovations put us into a certain category, take a renovation from $10 million to 30, 40, $50 million. When you look at this plan holistically, I learned a lot from the committee notes that we got in these meetings. And there's a certain playbook from the state that we can't control. And the MSBA controls the steps we have to take in order to get funding. If we don't go through with this study, we have a 100% chance of obtaining zero funds. If we go through with this study, we increase the likelihood we will get some form of a grant, and there are percentages based on the solution. So when we look at this project, we need to look at the overall picture of what's the best financial decision for the town and how do we best control our money. And the feasibility study not only offers bringing in an architect, which is necessary anyway for renovations. If we're going to renovate the school, we need an architect, we need an OPM. These are costs we're going to incur no matter what, whatever the solution we ultimately decide is. So if we decide to go forward with this study, we're obtaining funding from the state or the potential to obtain funds that we wouldn't get. And I just want you to consider the situation where you do a renovation without the funding, then you increase your costs, and now we're dramatically increasing the burden on the taxpayer. I see this as a really good plan for everyone in town to save money ultimately and get the best value for our money. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Mike. And last person, Diane.
Diane Wood, 122 Depot, strongly in favor and support the feasibility study. Do want to call out that I know and understand that the 1.6 million is sticker shock for most of the people in the room. But I want to call out that I understood that the range of estimates that came in from other communities that conducted their study was 1.5 to 2 million. So we're on the low end from a community perspective and conducting this feasibility study. Believe it or not, we're on the low end of the estimate that we have to put up. Strongly encourage it. We need to do something. I understand it's sticker shock, but it is what it is. It's a formal process, and we need a roadmap to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the vote. This vote requires a 2/3 majority. When the voting's open, you can press your green 1A button for yes, and the red 2B button for no. Voting is now open. Ready? We're about to close the vote. Voting is now closed. Please, no demonstrations. You can demonstrate outside. The motion passes 347 yes to 66 no. Thank you very much. All right. Alyssa, did you want to move forward with your resolution?
It's Elisa, by the way.
I'm sorry.
No worries. The only reason I think I want to offer this to town meeting today is because the prior article was in front of all of these boards. It's been discussed. The motions were looked at. and-
Okay, I'm not trying to cut you off, but can you just tell me whether you want to go forward with it or not?
Of course, that's why I'm standing
Okay.
here. You already asked.
Now-
That's why I
now
got
you
up.
can continue.
Yeah, okay, yes. So the reason why I think it's important to take this vote and share our opinion is because I would have thought someone would have already looked at this, right? Why not? Thank you.
All right. I don't think we need any discussion on this. This says okay, we'll take a vote. All right, so we're just going to do this by voice. A resolution is non-binding. It's just giving the select board information about how town meeting feels. So all in favor of the resolution as you see it up on the screen, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution passes. All right, we're now at Article 8. Under Article 8, I have a motion to appropriate from existing community preservation funds the amount of $2,047,346 for various projects as recommended by the Westford Community Preservation Committee. Is there a second to the motion under Article 8? I'm going to have Marilyn Frank, who's the chair of the committee, come forward and just give us some information about community preservation and the Community Preservation Act, and then we'll go through the projects one by one.
Thank you. The Community Preservation Act provides local and state funds for affordable housing, historic resources, open space, and recreation. It's a tool that helps us preserve the open space in historic sites. It definitely creates affordable housing, and it develops outdoor recreational facilities. In Westford, we have a 3% tax levy. That's the maximum you can have. The state has created a statewide Community Preservation Trust Fund, which provides distributions each year to communities that have adopted CPA. We are able to get the maximum amount from the state because of our taxation of 3%.
our recommendations will now be presented to you, hopefully for approval.
All right. Just to be sure, did I get a second to the article? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go through these 7 recommendations from the Community Preservation Committee. And if you want more information about any one of them, please say hold, and we'll come back and get your questions answered. $341,746 from the undesignated fund balance to the Community Housing Reserve, which allocation covers the required 10% for community housing. $350,000 from undesignated fund balance for the Forge VFW softball field lighting improvement project. $350,000 from the undesignated fund balance for the Westford Academy trustee field lighting improvement project. $890,000 transferred from the undesignated fund balance to the Conservation Trust Fund for future open space land purchases. $50,000 transferred from the Community Housing Fund balance to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for the Westford Rental Assistance Program. $50,000 transferred from the Community Housing Fund balance to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for a multifamily detailed needs assessment targeting specific affordable and senior housing needs. $15,600 from the undesignated fund balance for the Meadowbrook Farm Food Insecurity and Sustainability Project to provide electrical, plumbing, and insulation to the food storage shed. All right. Let's go ahead and vote on the 4 that, 1, 2, 3, the 3 that have no holds. So that would be the first 341,746 to the Community Housing Reserve, $50,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust, and $50,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust. Any questions on those? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take a voice vote on those 3. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion passes for those 3. It is not unanimous. All right, let's go to the undesignated fund balance for the Forge VFW field lighting, $350,000. Can the person with the hold please come forward? Okay, it's obviously a very nice reunion back there, but one of you can speak.
Hi, Sue Thomas, 7 Old Homestead. I had a question about both the lighting projects because when I looked at the specs, I could not tell how well shielded the lights were and whether they're lighting just the field or there's significant spillage away from the field.
Okay, can we get an answer to that, Jeff? Jeff Goodwin, Facilities Director.
So this pertains to both lighting projects. The new fixtures are going to be 1,200 watt LED fixtures with shielding around each fixture. So they're going to be significantly brighter, but it's going to be much more directed light to hit the playing surfaces and pedestrian walkways. So there will be a significant reduction in bleed out and light pollution on both projects.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Joanne Lund, 43 Hildreth Street. I'm asking the same question pretty much, but is it going to be more orange light or blue light?
That's tough to say. It's going to be more relevant. It's not going to be the soft fluorescent light that you're used to. It's going to be a more, I believe they refer to it as more of like a daylight option. So when you make a change to an LED retrofit, it's a brighter, more of a daylight look.
Okay, but the dark skies recommendations are to have an orange glow to it rather than a blue. You get a better vision through that, less glare if it's on the orange spectrum rather than the blue light. So I would
one thing
suggest
I can
that.
say is with all of the LED upgrades that we're doing in town, there is a certain amount of adjustability as to what tone you want them to look like. So we'll certainly pursue that as we get into the project.
Great, thank you very much.
And next at the center mic.
Oh, Emily Teller, same thing, dark skies, hope. Will they be turned off expeditiously at the end of the events? And hopefully so that the abutters and stuff don't have any lighting?
Absolutely. Actually, one of the benefits of this package on both projects is the much better control function. The current systems are metal halide light bulbs. So if you want them to be at full capacity at 7 p.m., you have to turn them on at 6:30. So there's a ramp up time. The new system is instant on, instant off, and the controls are all run through a smartphone or tablet. Very easy to get them on and off. You can actually prescribe a timing schedule to have them run and turn off immediately when the function is over.
And will there be more lighting in the parking lots too? The parking areas, are they being upgraded?
So the projects aim to light the fields, but especially I can speak to the trustee field here at the Academy. One area that we have insufficient lighting is the pedestrian walkways around the field. So there will be an additional fixture per pole here at the Academy to better illuminate the walkways around the field. And there will be a little bit of additional lighting at the edges of the parking lots, which will make much safer pedestrian foot traffic.
So those can be low though also. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, seeing no further questions, why don't we try and take a voice vote on that one? So we are talking about 350,000 from, let's do them separately. 350,000 from the undesignated fund balance for the Forge VFW softball field lighting. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Let's try the next one from the undesignated fund balance for the Westford Academy trustee field lighting improvement project. Are there any questions about that? We sort of took the questions together, but if anyone has a specific question on this, yes, sir.
So, Ryan Rawls, 62 Providence Road. I'm just thinking for the future. Sorry, that didn't come on initially. So we just voted against the nutting field for artificial, and one of the options that people were interested in is CPA money. Can anyone speak to, this is from the undesignated fund balance, can anyone speak to what that currently is, that we're transferring money to a different fund, and what the potential generative money will be going into next year? Because as we heard, the potential budget is over 2 million to put from the CPA if we want to do nutting field as natural.
We'll have the finance director answer that.
Sure. So starting today, we have a designated fund balance of $2.67 million. If all the motions pass today, that's going to drop to $1,069,000. However, the way the CPA works is that they bank everything in the current fiscal year. So starting next year, we're going to add an extra $3.3 million to that balance, give or take. So we'll be starting next year with CPA fund balance of about 4.3 million or so.
Thank you, Dan. Any other questions on that? All right, let's take a vote.
Hello?
Okay.
Hi.
Sorry,
Can I ask a
John.
question?
I don't know how I could not see you, but there you
Oh,
are.
it's
Go ahead.
okay. I prefer to be invisible, but sometimes I can't be. My name is John Amato. I live at 88 Chamberlain Road. I have a couple of questions. And the first question is, at VFW Field, they define the field, a softball field. A softball field's about 40,000 square feet. You can light a softball field with 4 lights at 40,000 square feet for the price of $350,000 without a problem. But let's say, for example, the other field that we don't name is the high school track and field stadium field. That might cost $600,000 to light properly. And a varsity field, if it is the varsity field, you would expect a higher level of lighting, quality lighting, because it's not recreation. It is very competitive programs at the varsity level, and the lighting should be better. So what field is it, and what went into deciding the price should be the same?
Maybe I can clarify. We've already voted on the VFW field, and we're now talking about the Westford Academy.
No, I understand. I used it as an example. I understand that. I used it as an example. The high school field's about 90,000 square feet. It's twice as big as the other one.
So your question is, how are we doing them both for approximately the same amount of money?
Yeah, how are you going to do one twice as big for the same price?
We'll get an answer to that.
Great question. I've learned a lot about this as we've gone through this process myself. Over at the VFW field, You're talking 6 poles, 6 fixtures per pole to light that field. At the
Okay.
academy, we're talking about 4 poles, 10 fixtures per pole, plus the additional fixture about halfway down to light the pedestrian walkways.
Uh-huh. So they're both going to have the same amount of light, but spread out further.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So the light level on the varsity field wouldn't be as, what do you want to call it? Exciting for users and athletes, but for spectators and athletes, it'll be a different experience. The softball field will be very well lit, but the other field will not be.
So the proposals we have for these projects is by a company called Premier Sports Field Lighting. They're well-respected engineers in the field of sports lighting. Basically, what you're looking for is a target goal of 53-foot candles to properly illuminate a sports field. Both projects, as they're spec'd out, is a significant upgrade in lighting on both, but the football field will be just as well lit for the function it serves as the softball field at VFW.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
John.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's take a vote on that. This is the $350,000 from the undesignated fund balance for Westford Academy trustee field lighting. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. It's unanimous. Now we have $890 transfer, $890,000 transfer from the undesignated fund balance to the Conservation Trust Fund for open space land purchases. The person who had the hold, is that you, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Leon Calitri, Heather Drive. A couple of questions. One of them is that, is there a particular land that we've identified that we are going to try to purchase? Is that what this is about?
Let's get an answer to
And what's
that.
the location?
Do you have another question as well?
If we don't do this, is that going to cause a problem for us
Okay.
in the future?
Matt Salem, Conservation Coordinator, right?
Conservation Resource Planner. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, yes, there is a property currently being offered to the Conservation Commission. It has been appraised, so we have a dollar amount that if this is not appropriated, we would not be able to acquire. It's approximately 40 acres. And no, at this time, not as we have not executed a purchase and sale agreement with the seller, in the interest of not negotiating against our best interests, I can't disclose that.
So you can't tell us where it is?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
And again, at the center microphone.
Hi, James Coaches, 34 Forge Village Road. To kind of bring us back to all the folks that have stood up here and said, hey, wait a minute, this is a luxury item. Why do we need this land? Why do we need this land now? We're in a little bit of fiscal austerity. We got to be careful what we do. We shouldn't be doing luxurious and new things that we don't have to do. Why do we need to do this?
We'll get an answer to that. Kristen Moss, Town Manager.
Thank you for the question. Many of you in the room may or may not be familiar with community preservation funds. They can only be used for certain purposes, for housing, for historic preservation, for conservation, and for recreation. So we could not use these funds to fund the nutting field because turf replacement is not allowed under CPA. We could not use these funds to build a school building. We could not use these funds to pave or plow our roadways. So this is very specific funding for conservation purposes only.
To your point, when we talked about this earlier, you can use it for natural grass. So why would we not use that money for something we're going to have to incur anyway? Rather than a new piece of land, the town shouldn't be buying new land right now. We don't need more than we have.
I'm going to let the chair of the CPA committee answer that.
There was a lot of discussion and then there was a lawsuit. And the town of Needham brought that before the courts. When the ruling was done, no CPA funds can ever again be used. I'm sorry, when it went to court and they lost in court, no CPA funds can ever be used for that field or any field like that with artificial turf.
Yep, but we're not talking artificial turf anymore. That got shut down.
I understand, but you said, why can't we? I thought you only wanted.
I thought that
This
was
is
the
this is
question
natural
also.
turf now that we're talking, because we're not doing artificial anymore.
Well, we're not doing anything anymore right now.
You can't do it because it was a project that was there before. This is not brand new.
Okay,
I'm just telling you, we can't do it.
I think what,
yeah, something's not syncing up here.
okay,
Maybe I'm
well,
not saying it
first,
correctly, but I know we're forbidden to use that.
first of all, I think, has any such project been brought before you?
No.
Right, that's the first thing. The project has to be brought before the CPA in order for them to issue a recommendation, and town meeting can't act without a recommendation.
Copy, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
next, at the
Hi,
center line.
Just for
Go ahead. You
just
can
for
go.
clarification, Kathleen Lolland and Timberlane Lane. With regard to the possibility of this passing, what would that parcel be earmarked for? I'm just seeing that there's been a lot of development, and I know everybody talks about, obviously the trees and the bushes and all that contribute to clean air. On Nutting Road, there were over, I think, almost 400 trees removed for the new project that's going in and is in the process of going in for housing. It's supposed to be luxury housing. We get a lot more hawks, a lot more deer and whatnot coming through. Because
We can let Matt answer the question of what would that project
Right.
be?
And I'm just hoping too that a lot more consideration will be given to maintaining some of the forested areas.
Well, what would that property be earmarked for is the question. What would property purchased with conservation trust funds, conservation funds be earmarked for?
Under the Massachusetts Constitution, gotta go the other way. Under the Article 97 of the Massachusetts Constitution, lands acquired for open space shall not be used for any other purpose. So in my intention, the acquisition of this parcel, it would remain in its undisturbed and undeveloped state.
Thank you.
At the microphone to my left.
Wayne Fernald, 3 Bluebrook Lane. Just to follow up on that 40 acres that we don't know exactly where it is in town, to remain as open space. What portion of that is actually buildable land that could be used for new housing or new commercial property?
Through you, Madam Moderator, an appraisal was done and it could be developed. And that's the purchase price. Using CPA funds, the acquisition cannot exceed the fair market value. So an appraisal has been performed so that we have a understanding of the market value.
At the microphone to my right.
Thank you, Denali Delmar, 8 Dunstable Road. Would you please, or someone please, talk about where the conservation, whatever, where the money comes from for this account?
I think it was either the town manager or the chair of the committee indicates that the money from this account comes from our 3% tax surcharge.
That is correct. So you have a 3% tax surcharge on your tax bill. So the money comes from that as well as it comes from reimbursement from the state. That percentage varies on a year-to-year basis based upon the amount available and the disbursements to other municipalities, including Westford.
At the microphone in the center.
Doug Burns, 4 Black Bear Lane. I'm going to recommend we vote against this and keep the money in the CPA funds with the purpose of, I've got a resolution here that I'd like to give to the select board, that the Westford Town Meeting recommends that the select board investigate using CPA and any other funds that they can get their hands on to improve nutting fields to a natural turf field.
Okay, we'll have to do your resolution after we finish the vote on this, but happy to take it then. And in the meantime, you can bring it up here to the desk and they'll put it up on it.
So my point is clearly that I'm saying, let's not move the money to the Conservation Trust. Let's leave it where it is so that the select board will have access to accessing those funds in the future.
Thank you. Oh, okay, Kristen.
I just want to make a point of order that only the Community Preservation Committee can vote to recommend an article under these funds to town meeting. The select board does not have control over these funds. The Community Preservation Committee has the control.
Do you want a legal opinion? That's what the statute says. Do you want town council to comment on that before you? So basically your resolution is asking the select board to do something they don't have the authority to do.
I am asking the select board to work with the CPN. I'm not, I agree that they can't spend the funds, but somehow this got before the CPM. So I'm saying, let's not, as a group, we're the ones that control that money. So
All right.
let's not spend that money, and let's ask our select board and the CPM to consider spending it in a different way, which would be for the nutting fields is an option.
Bring your resolution up. Microphone to my left.
Rose O'Donnell, 8 Sassafras Road. I just want to say there are 3 things that make living in Westford as wonderful as it is. The quality of our schools, the quality of our town government and the people who participate in it and volunteer their time, and the amount of open space we have that keeps us a rural feeling, even though a large town. I don't agree that we have enough open space. I think we should buy every single bit of land we can find to keep open, have trails, places for recreation. So that's my comment on this.
Thank you. Paul, and I'm going to take the other 2 people at the mic, and that'll be it for this motion, this part.
Paul Fassbender, Texas Road. Didn't Dan O'Donnell already say that we will have enough next year to be able to do both? So we should be able to vote yes for this 890,000 and still be able to do the natural grass perhaps next year?
Well, I think Dan gave us the number for how much is going to be in the account next year.
Right. So
I don't think he went as far as to say we have enough to do
the point being, we don't need to save the $890,000 by voting this down now. We can vote to pass this and not take away the option if, assuming a proposal comes forward for nutting field grass next year, we should be able to fund it from CPA funds.
Thank you, Paul. At the microphone to my right.
Yes, hello. I'm Chris Erickson. I live at 41 Kais Road. The woman to my right kind of stole my thunder, but I would just like to ask the town to consider buying the open land. The town has had a history in these town meetings of spending these funds to preserve the open land. I've been in Westford 30 years. Behind my house on Kais Road is one of the largest hills in Westford. It was private property when I got there, but my point is it's been developed. Cell tower, housing, Nutting Road was mentioned a little while ago. Beautiful, sweet road, now, torn up by development. So in my opinion, we want to try to limit this when we can and buy the open land that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. George?
George Murray, 14 Haywood Road. I'll make it quick. 50 years ago, I served in the finance committee, and a person older and wiser than me said, anytime the town can buy open land, suck it up and buy it. And the CPA funding allows us to do that. Put money in the bank, and when a piece of land becomes available, you can grab it. And it makes Westford the kind of town that it is. Thanks.
Were you at the microphone when I said everyone at the microphone? Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. And I did have a follow-up based on my first question that I didn't get a chance to ask, but I guess my only concern here is I hear a lot of people really loving open space. I love open space. But not only are we spending tax dollars to buy a piece of property for the town, we're foregoing any possible future tax collection from development in those spaces. And it is a give and take. And I agree that open space is great, but I think Westford does a good job with open space, and this might be one that we could forego based on giving up tax dollars that the town vitally needs. So I urge you to vote no on this.
All right, I think we'll move to the vote now. Let's use the clickers for this. If you're in favor of this $890,000 transfer from undesignated funds to the Conservation Trust Fund for future open space land purchase, you'll vote yes. If you're opposed, you'll vote no.
Majority, right?
Straight majority is what we need to pass. Voting is open. All right, I'm about to close the vote. Voting is closed.
322 to 68.
The motion passes 322 yes to 68 no. Let's go right down to the $15,600 from the undesignated fund balance for the Meadowbrook Farm Food Insecurity and Sustainability Project. Will the person who had the hold on that please approach the microphone?
Arnie Price, 19 Oak Hill Road. I just have a couple of questions. This is on land that has a conservation restriction, is that correct?
Can someone answer that? Bob Waskevich, who I believe is the proponent of the project.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Bob Waskevich, and I live at 120 Groton Road, and I own Meadowbrook Farm. And the answer to your question is yes, there is a conservation restriction that town meeting put on this property about 25 years ago.
And at the same time, the property is privately owned by yourself?
Actually, the land that the gardens are on are town of Westford owned land under the conservation restriction, and it's under the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction.
So you don't own that?
I do not own that
where
land.
this is going?
But we leased that land under an agreement then to keep it as a farm. We have leased it, and we've got about a 50-year lease on it.
So I've been at the property several times. I retired from the health department. I used to do food inspections over there with Sandra. Is this like the apple shed, or where is the, what is it, what is being, the electricity being put into and the plumbing being put into?
Sure. The apple shed, the buildings, the barn, and what have you are on 24 acres that my former late partner, Bob Webb, and his wife and myself own privately.
Okay.
The rest of the land, the remaining 64 acres, is land that's owned by the town of Westford. And that land is in the Conservation Trust, as is our property as well,
Right.
except for the houses in the area that is being lived on.
Okay, so what buildings, or I'm using buildings as a word, for lack of a better term,
Sure.
Is the plumbing and the where is that plumbing and
Sure.
electrical going?
So 2 years ago, when we appeared before this town meeting and we asked for your help in producing these gardens and producing the infrastructure, that came with a couple of sheds, that came with a well, that came with a road, that came with fencing. And thankfully to all of you, last September, we produced 90,000 pounds of vegetables that went to food pantries, gratis, no money to Meadowbrook Farm.
So Bob, I think he's just asking specifically what
Yeah,
building?
I just want to know what
building
Sure,
is
the
it?
two sheds, sir. The two sheds that were voted 2 years ago, one of them, which is housing well and infrastructure and pumps and other equipment. The second one, which will also be serving this year, I've just been talking with the Westford Food Pantry, Tim Butler and Bernard Peliquin, will be storing more food because the Westford Food Pantry doesn't have space to store the food.
Okay.
We want to give them.
Just one more question. What are the square footage of these buildings? How big are these buildings? I'm just curious.
Oh, these maybe 26 by 12, something of that. These are small, like the equivalent of one stall garages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this part of the article? Heather?
Heather Fitzpatrick, Shannon Circle. You just mentioned that this organization leases the land. Where do those proceeds end up?
Or no, no organization, we lease the land. We lease
So-
the land
okay.
from the town of Westford.
Okay, again, same question. Where are those proceeds in the town?
That's a question for the town. I could say.
Where are the proceeds?
If somebody's
Bob, I think
leasing,
that's a question for town government. I think,
The lease, can I answer a question?
okay, go
The
ahead.
lease price on the land is $100 a year.
That's what I was going to say.
That was
Okay,
a part
okay.
of what we did 27 years ago when we made this a farm and saved it as open space and stopped 53 houses from going in.
okay.
So it's $100 a year.
Okay. Did everybody hear that? I know he wasn't really talking into the microphone. Okay. Does that answer your question, Heather?
It does. I just want to make one other comment. These CPC funds are a surcharge. Even in the FinCom book, it's mentioned that we may think about reducing them. In my opinion, this is the best return on money we get from the state. I don't even think it's an opinion. I think it's a fact. So I have heard lots of complaints over the time of these various funds going to private entities. So I just think we need to be careful of what we decide to invest in, because I would hate to see these funds reduced as tax relief to the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Catherine McGee on Cold Spring Road. So I just wanted to make you aware, in case you are not, that there are some grant opportunities through NRCS to pay for some of this stuff. And we have an office on Littleton Road. So just FYI, and also through the state.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, we'll go forward to the vote. Let's try it with a voice. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Okay. Having voted, just checking the time. Having voted Article 9 in the consent agenda, we're now at the annual budget item for fiscal 2026. Under Article 10, I have a motion that the town raise and appropriate $137,649,144 for the fiscal 2026 operating budget. Is there a second to that motion? I'm going to hand it over to Kristen Moss, our town manager, who will give us a state of the town speech. Yes.
Okay. You skipped.
Oh, sorry.
Article
I forgot
9.
your motion. Sorry, Kristen.
Yeah, no, good.
All right.
Thank you.
No, Article 10. No, this gentleman. So we have, 9 was on the consent agenda. That should have been Article 10. But however, I just have to ask town council one thing, sorry. Sir, this is my mistake, but now that the motion has been seconded and is on the floor, I can't go forward with your resolution until after we're done with the budget. My apologies, but we will do it when we're done with the budget. Okay, great. So, sorry for the confusion. We are at Article 10, which is the fiscal 2026 budget, and I'll turn it over to Kristen.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you, Steve and the IT department for putting up the presentation. Again, I'm Kristen Lass, the town manager. I'm pleased to present to you the 2025 State of the Town. If you are longtime town meeting members or residents, this is going to look a little bit different than what you're used to. Last year, we did not give a standard State of the Town as we were discussing Articles 1 through 4 being the budget. The year before that, I followed the presentation that the previous town manager had done traditionally. This is kind of a mix-up of both. So I hope you enjoy the presentation and looking forward to questions after the fact. And let me see if I can use the clicker properly. Great, thank you. So the first part of the presentation will be the fiscal 26 town budget overview. We're striving to adhere to the Select Board fiscal 26 budget policy direction. We continue to incorporate recommendations from the Budget Task Force and their final report. we're using as our new strategic plan as a guide. If you haven't picked up a copy, it's in the back. We're very proud of that document approved by the select board. I thank them for their support. We've certainly heard from our voters that there is no appetite for an override. However, we continue to face structural deficits and our costs are increasing faster than our revenue constrained under Proposition 2.5. This slide shows us the available funds that we have for fiscal 26 that make up our entire budget. You'll see in the blue that the majority of our revenues come from our tax revenues and very little come from others such as state aid, which again constrains how we can budget on a year-to-year basis. Our tax levy for fiscal 26 is just over $99 million, made up of what our fiscal year 25 tax levy was, the Proposition 2.5 increase, the new growth, which we have estimated, and then our debt exclusions built into that. We build our budget from that. Our operating budget is just over $137 million. And then we have our capital appropriations, which you have all already voted upon, the other articles that you already voted upon, other amounts to be raised, our state and county assessments, and our allowance for abatements, for a total fiscal 26 budget of $147,762,589. I want to remind town meeting members that we still have challenges in our fiscal 26 budget, and we anticipate seeing challenges in fiscal 27. We're absorbing those cuts of the 25 budget due to the failed override. We are presenting you today with a balanced budget so we can set the tax rate. We are continuing to see the increased labor, energy, and service contracts. And we also have a commitment to our recruitment and retention opportunities to obtain quality and keep quality employees. Like I said before, Proposition 2.5 presents real constraints, and that will continue to drive service cuts into the future. In this budget, we're using one-time funds such as ARPA and revolving to plug the gap that will not be available to us in future years. Our new revenue opportunities such as MBTA, community development, and other will take years to continue to grow and is not a one-time solution. This is a slide of our budget increases that we've seen. I won't read the entire slide deck, but I do want to note some larger items. We have 6 town collective bargaining agreements that some are currently under bargaining and some will continue into the future. We have continuing health insurance costs that we're continuing to try to mitigate through our Health Insurance Trust Fund and our Health Insurance Trust Fund Committee. We have legal labor expenses continue to increase. And another large increase that I want to point out is our Neshoba Tech budget is increasing by over 20%. Over 14 more students are projected to enter that group in fiscal 26, which is great for those students, but we do have to account for that. Our fiscal 26 budget does have a considerable amount of decreases as well. We have implemented the centralized fleet fueling at the DPW garage. Our assessor's office continues to use outsourcing to do their good work. We have good news through our waste collection and recycling budget. We've seen over a $30,000 decrease to that due to the good work of our hauler as well as our residents who are continuing to cut their solid waste by diverting it to other means. And we have seen that through our other articles we discussed this morning, we're going to be paying off those small capital projects early in fiscal 25. So we will not be incorporating those into the fiscal 26 budget. We also see several other changes in the budget, such as the community wellness salary being offset with opioid settlement funds, the town accountant going out to bid to authorize a different audit firm to prepare our annual audit that's required, the consolidation of the DPW engineering and highway department budget into one for efficiency, and we have our library expenses being reallocated due to the move off-site. I want to assure the voters and the residents that we're continuing to work on ongoing efforts for operating efficiencies and revenue opportunities. We're aligning our goals to the strategic plan that I'll talk about in a moment. We're pursuing a numerous amount of energy efficiency projects and exploring new funding mechanisms for that. We continue to monitor and explore our health insurance opportunities. As discussed earlier, we're doing a comprehensive long-term capital planning efforts on both the town and the school side. We see our technology being integrated more and more between town and schools. We're continuing our shared service agreements, which could be between the town and school or other towns in general. And we continue to review our fees for service. We're also trying to strengthen our economic development outreach through the hiring of an economic development consultant and the good work of our economic development committee. I do want to highlight the excellent work of our town staff and board and committee members for obtaining over $1.9 million of state, federal, and local grants. This is only through March of 2025. We still have 3 more months to go. I'm just very proud of the work that our staff and board and committees continue to do to offset the tax base to make sure that we're providing services for our residents. So again, I said I would be discussing our strategic plan a little bit. Again, there's copies in the back of the room. There were many opportunities for outreach to develop the town of Westford's first ever strategic plan. This is a guide to provide our vision for where we want to see the town move forward to in the next few years. We have a mission and we have values that we're following. And we really appreciate all of the public input through surveys, coming to our open forums, and providing feedback at certain board and committee meetings. We have 7 strategic outcome areas, and I've heard all of you talk to a little bit to these priorities through your questions and comments today. So again, I won't read through all of them, but we really think that this captures what the town would like to see over the next few years. Under each category, I want to highlight some of the things that we are already doing or have planned in the fiscal 26 budget that speak to that strategic plan. Prioritizing town and school needs of capital planning while considering limited resources. Our facilities assessment is underway. Thank you to many of you who have participated in that. We have flyers and boards out back if you would like to be more involved. That is still continuing, but we'll be wrapping up in April. We've continued and worked on and have published our ADA transition plan that's under review with the Commission on Disabilities. You supported the Robinson School Building Feasibility Study project that will be moving forward for the next year or so. And we're using our asset management software to the greatest extent practical to document our fleet, our building systems, and other items to continue using those resources over the future. Like I said before, we want to develop and retain our employees, and we want to establish a framework for identifying and prioritizing our core services. We're doing that now by being a AAA bond-rated community, receiving the highest level in that sense for the lowest interest rates on our future borrowing projects. And we're adjusting our local revenue estimates to become based upon the trends and the local markets. We want to be a caring and engaged community. We want to develop and implement a comprehensive communication plan. We hired a communications consultant on January 1st to help us develop that plan and provide communication services. You may have received a ramped up version of our Facebook and newsflash for town meeting, doing 2 to 3 posts per day. They're doing an amazing outreach for us. They're doing news flashes. They're doing press releases. We're trying to get more and more information out to the community and doing listening sessions of how you want to receive information from the town. We've implemented website improvements and continue that on a day-to-day basis. We've used new engagement platforms such as Zen City, and we want to overall increase our communication efforts to our public. We'll be providing outreach to our boards and commissions on the strategic plan in the coming months. As we just discussed, we have a need and want for opportunities for recreation and open space. We'll be creating a sidewalk assessment right now for our existing sidewalks. We'll be studying pedestrian connectivity through an MBTA zoning grant. And we did discuss the West Street and North Main Street pedestrian projects under future and former articles. We'll be updating our open space and recreation plan over the next few months. So if you want to get involved, there'll be opportunities for that. And we want to develop and promote and enhance recreational opportunities for all generations. Some examples that we're currently working on now is the Jack Walsh Court rehabilitation and the Plain Road sidewalk construction continuing this summer. We want to make sure that we're providing quality educational opportunities for all. This is from newborns up to our oldest residents. We want to schedule and prioritize reoccurring collaboration among our educational partners. We want to create opportunities that meet publicly supported lifelong learning. This will be implemented throughout the course of the library renovation project, where they're going to be seeking other spaces for their education, partnering with others, and then that wonderful space that we'll have once that library is completed. And this goes across all of our departments: school, recreation, council on aging, and others. And we want to make sure that we're optimizing our shared resources between the town and the schools. We have a commitment to environmental sustainability and climate action. We want to create a solar siting plan, conduct a portfolio-wide energy audit. We currently are working on energy efficiency projects that include $860,000 in lighting and weatherization improvements, leveraging $767,000 in incentives with a total out-of-pocket cost to the town of just over $92,000 with net positive cash flow with paybacks in the future. And we're going to do that in fiscal 26 as well. We want to develop a fleet transition plan and develop a comprehensive waste reduction strategy with our select board and our recycling committee and other interested boards and committees. We have a commitment to diverse and attainable housing options. We want to identify infrastructure upgrades that are necessary. We're currently exploring needs with National Grid. We want to review our zoning bylaws and propose changes that support the town's housing goals. And we want to support the development of affordable housing opportunities for future and current residents. This could include our 35 Town Farm Road project that Choice is currently out for funding for, and permitting underway for MBTA community projects such as the 37 Powers Road project. And lastly, our seventh item in a strategic plan is intentional and appropriate economic growth. We've hired that economic development consultant who is working with our community to assess all of the strategies listed below. Specifically, we want to continue to identify and evaluate locations in the town that are conducive to economic development. This includes 12 North Main Street and the Route 40 corridor study, in which there was a resolution at town meeting 2 years ago. We're happy to report that we do have grant funding to complete that Route 40 corridor study, and we'll be moving forward with that later this year. Some of the businesses that have moved into Westford over the course of the last year are listed on this slide: BTU, Marathon Sports, Focal Point Design, Chase Bank, Stir in the old Chili's building, Yokai Ramen, Urgent Vet, Nan's Kitchen, Alpha Graphics, and there's many, many more. You wouldn't want to hear me drone on about those. And then we also have infrastructure investment to go along with that. So in closing, I just want to thank all boards and committees that have been involved in the creation of the budget for fiscal 26 and the creation of the strategic plan. I want to thank the select board members for their support over the past year, and thank Andrea and Scott, as this is their last town meeting as select board members. They've been a huge guiding force for our work. I want to thank the department heads and staff who've been working tirelessly and under constraints that are very challenging. I want to note that we still continue to appreciate the public support and the public's input, and you can reach us at any time. So in closing, Westford strives to be a welcoming and inclusive community that honors its history and traditions, and we're driven towards innovation and progress, balancing growth with preservation and a commitment to creating a sustainable future. So with that, I'll open it back to the moderator for questions on Article 10.
Thank you, Kristen. So it's exactly noon. I'd like to, we have two options. We can break for lunch now and come back in 45 minutes, or we can plow through for another half hour and see how far we get in the budget. Okay, how many people would like to plow through for another half hour? How many people would like to stop now for lunch? I think the plows have it. Okay, just a half hour and then we'll go to lunch because we'll become unproductive if we get too hungry. Okay, at this time, please turn to page 9 of your motions booklet.
Ma'am,
Yes,
given that we have half an hour before lunch, am I allowed to re-propose a motion that I proposed already?
no,
No?
because we're in the middle of a motion.
Oh,
But you can do it at the end of the, we can do it at the end of the budget if you want, but that's going to be after lunch. Okay, at this time, please turn to page 9 of your motions booklet. As you can see, each department or category of our town government is listed, followed horizontally across the page by 5 columns. The numbers we will be working with are the bolded totals in the 3rd column labeled fiscal 2026 TMR for town manager recommended. These are the numbers you'll be asked to vote on in this motion. I'll read through the list of departments along with the totals for each. And if you have a question or comment on any of them, please say hold, and we'll come back to that item to hear your question or comment. In the end, we'll vote on the budget as a whole. Before we get to page 9, please take a look at page 8 of your motions booklet. There you'll see 12 appropriations in this budget, which are listed separately from the rest of the budget because they're being appropriated from sources other than this year's tax dollars. I'll read through those items first. Please say hold if you have a question on any particular item. You ready? Okay, to the general fund, $100,000 from overlay surplus. To the Community Preservation Fund, $1,089,168 from Community Preservation Fund fiscal 2026 revenue. To the Town Revolving Funds, $3,000 from Senior Center Fitness Room Revolving 53E.5. From the Town Revolving Funds, $19,197 from Immunization and Clinical Revolving 53E.5. From the to the Town Revolving Funds, $7,350 from East Boston Camps Maintenance Revolving 53E.5. To the Town Revolving Funds, $13,000 from the lease of the town buildings at 65 and 73 Main Street and 170 Plain Road Revolving 53E.5. To the opioid settlement proceeds, $25,000 from the opioid settlement funds. To the Water Enterprise Fund, $4,914,665 from the Water Enterprise revenue and $300,000 appropriated from Water Enterprise retained earnings. To the Recreation Enterprise Fund, $1,043,281 from the Recreation Enterprise revenue and $180,000 appropriated from Recreation Enterprise retained earnings. To the Ambulance Enterprise Fund, $925,000 from the Ambulance Enterprise revenue, $50,000 appropriated from Ambulance Enterprise retained earnings, and $605,337 to be raised and appropriated. To the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, $979,251 from the Stormwater Enterprise revenue and $600,000 to be raised and appropriated. To the Expendable Trust, $10,000 from the Cemetery Perpetual Care Expendable Trust. Having heard no holds, let's just take a vote on that. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? The motion passes. It's unanimous. Those aspects of the motion pass unanimously. All right, now we can move to the next page, to page 9. And I'll go through each section. If you have a question, say hold, otherwise we'll keep going. Under General Government, for the Select Board, $21,675. Town Manager, $572,400. Was that a hold? Okay. Finance Committee, $102,533. Finance Department, $163,657. Town Accountant, $397,195. Board of Assessors, $370,328. Treasurer Collector, $349,514. Legal Services, $153,000. Human Resources, $1,023,060. What is your point of order?
Madam Moderator, what you're reading is not displayed on the screens, I don't believe. Should it be?
We'll get that taken
Thank you so
care of.
much.
Thank you for letting me know. Okay. No, you went past it, Susan. You went past it. Page 9. Yeah, stop. Go back. Okay. Oh, I'm at the bottom of this page. That's right. I'm at legal services. You with me?
It's on the screen.
I know, but he has to know where I am so he can switch. Okay? All right. Legal services, 153,000. Human resources, 1,023,060. Hold on, human resources. Technology, $1,078,019. Town clerk, $336,612. Next page, permitting department, $369,790. Conservation Commission, $116,019. Planning Board, $115,891. Zoning Board of Appeals, $2,700. Town Hall Maintenance, $115,825. Public Buildings and Properties Maintenance, $298,066. Let's stop there and vote on everything we don't have a hold on. So the two holds were on Town Manager and Human Resources. We're going to vote on everything else in general government. All in favor of all those other items, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. Did somebody have a nay? No. Okay, that passed unanimously. We'll come back and do all the holds at once. No, let's do them now, because if we go to lunch, you might forget what your hold was about. Will the person who had the hold on the Town Manager line item please come forward? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Cynthia King, 82 Depot Street. There's an increase of 30,000. I would like to know what that is. But what came to my attention last year was the salary of the town manager versus the salary of the governor of Massachusetts. And we are paying our town manager more than the governor of Massachusetts makes, and I'm wondering why. Granted, she's doing a better job with the town of Westford than the governor, but it seems illogical to me that a town manager makes more than the governor of Massachusetts.
All right, I think we have your question. I think the select board maybe can answer the second question.
I would agree with your assessment of the town manager. So we handle our town manager's contract like any other employee contract, which is we look at the market basket. And there is a mass association of town governments that gives us a list of all the town manager salaries across the state. We take a look at that and we find our towns in our market basket. And the contract that we have with the town manager is consistent with that market basket. If that hopefully answers the question.
And Dan, could you answer the question about the $30,000 increase?
Sure. So in that first section that we just approved with all the language, you'll see a line item here that we have Fund 290 opioid settlement proceeds for $25,000. That's actually offsetting the salary of the community wellness director within the town manager budget. Previously, that portion of her salary was paid through ARPA funds. So it's really just a different way in how we're accounting for that, those funds to be applied. So the real increase is $9,093.
Yes, ma'am.
It's been my observation that often it's hard to interpret some of these as a department versus an individual. It seems possible to me that some of these are thought to be individual salaries rather than multiple people. So I suggest that perhaps town manager is a department of multiple people and not individuals. And if we can make that clear, it might help people make some of these connections.
Let's answer that question.
Thank you for the question. Specifically, the town manager's budget is made up of 4+ individuals. So thank you for that clarification. We do not specifically list out all of the employees or all the positions, as this is a line item budget related to salaries. We have positions coming and going. We have employees coming and going. So we need the flexibility to be able to budget the entire salary line item for that department.
All right. Let's take the, are you approaching the microphone on this?
No, human resources.
Okay, let's take the vote on 123, town manager, $572,400. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. The motion passes, it's unanimous. Let's go down to was it not unanimous? Okay, sorry. All right, the motion passes, it is not unanimous. My apologies. Let's go down to human resources. Human resources for $1,023,060. Sir, you have a question about that?
Yes, Leon Calitri, Heather Drive. Can you please explain the 700,000 for the compensation reserve?
Dan?
Sure. So on the town side, we currently have 6 unsettled contracts for FY26. So historically, we budgeted money aside to be able to transfer to those appropriate line items once those contracts are settled. So in this case, it's a higher amount because all the contracts are unsettled.
And ma'am, did you have a question on human resources?
That was pretty much my question.
Okay, great. Let's take a vote on human resources then. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say nay. I didn't hear any nays. If there are any, okay. It is not, the motion passes, it is not unanimous. Let's go on to public safety at 210. I haven't even said it yet. You're so far ahead of me. Okay, police department, $6,407,002. Do you have a hold on that? Okay. Public safety communications, $936,084. Fire department, $4,426,783. Building department, $439,204. Sealer of weights and measures, $25,000. Emergency management, $12,542. Animal control, $55,134. Tree warden, $33,184. Continuing, and under education, Westford Public Schools, $69,388,572. Neshoba Tech, $1,792,307. All right, let's stop there. Let's vote all the items that didn't have holds on them. I have a hold for the police department, the Westford Public Schools, and Neshoba Tech. So for everything else, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. All right, will the person who had the hold on public safety, police department, please approach the microphone?
Elisa Nakashin, Holzberg, Betty Lane. I'm about to shock all of my fiscally conservative friends. But I would like to know why we have an 18% increase in animal control, but we're actually reducing the police department budget?
We'll get an answer to that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Traditionally, the animal control budget was not budgeted properly and our costs greatly outweighed our budget in that area, and we actually had to supplement with other methods. So we are budgeting the animal control line item true to what we expect the budget to be in fiscal '26.
And wait, Kristen.
Sorry, that was just my reference of comparison. I'm trying to understand why the police department's being cut instead of increased.
So the police contracts with superior officers and Westford Public Association are both unsettled at this point. In addition, we did have turnover in the past year. So we cost out the salaries as they are without any increase in those for that year. So since we had turnover, the personal services is less. And also, we now purchase hybrid cruisers for the police department, and our gasoline usage has gone down quite a bit as well. So we are seeing savings there, and we're accounting for that within the budget.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so let's vote on public safety. Police Department, $6,407,002. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? I didn't hear any nays. So that's unanimous. All right, will the person who has the hold on the Westford Public Schools please come forward?
Megan Eckroth, Timberley Lane. I don't have a question about this. As I stated before, I teach in our Westford Public School system. It's more that I just want to comment to sort of disrupt the complacency. Our override failed. Here we are. We've sat through all of the very difficult budget discussions to make it work within a woefully inadequate amount to fund our public schools. And I feel like then fast forward and we sit in this room and we vote on this overall budget and we see a town manager's report that makes it seem like everything's fine. And people need to know that it is not fine. So what that looks like is that
Not about the question.
it absolutely is. And I have a question at the end of it.
I think she's speaking directly to the school budget, which is where we are.
I'll move on from the override. This budget that is proposed means that we are going to lose our intervention services. We are going to lose several classroom sections. I happen to work at a school and my own position, third grade, that is being reduced, which means that next year, many of our students will be in classes with 25 and 26 peers. That doesn't even include move-ins to Westford this summer. That has an enormous impact on student learning. And the reality is that we are simply not meeting the needs of so many of our students. And so I just feel like we go through this and it's like, oh, everything's fine. The quality of our schools is great. That's not true. I mean, yes, we as educators and administrators are doing everything in our power to meet the needs of those students every single day. But when you stretch things that thin, at some point they break. So the complacency to sit here and be like, well, they made it work is not accurate. So I just wanted to say that. And then my follow-up question is, in light of the town manager's presentation, there's only one pot of money. I won't say the O word. But since the O word did not pass, we are.
Okay, Megan, I need you to.
Constrictions of that money, right? It's a pie. And so the piece of the pie that is given to our schools, again, back to the 32% of our population that is 18 and under, is not sufficient. So we either as a town, a whole town, not the town side and the school side, need to allocate funds differently to fully fund our schools as needed, or we need to consider additional tax revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. All right, having had that answered, let's go forward and vote on the Westford Public.
Can I make a comment, please?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Diana Walker Moore, 69 Forest Road. To balance that a little bit, and I'm not against supporting the schools as needed. However, I and my husband put 4 children through the Westford Public Schools. The last one graduated 17 years ago. We have continued to support the Westford Public Schools through our tax dollars. I'm recently retired on a fixed income. I understand that the quality of the schools improves the value of my home, but that is only realized if I sell the home and leave. I recognize that our budget right now, our proposed budget, the schools will get about 52% of the budget. So I do want to recognize the people in my age group, my population, who have supported the schools through our tax dollars over time. We are not complacent. We do care. And I do appreciate the work that is done by the educators, the school committee, the town of Westford to support our school systems.
Thank you. Sir, is it to this item?
It is. My name's Alan Andrews, 20 Banbury Drive. And I do agree with the previous statement that the budget is unsustainable. When we're in an environment where inflation is greater than 2.5% and the town limits its increase each year to 2.5%, we're headed for trouble. And I would
So I
really-
I need you to direct that directly to, I need
To
you to
the
direct your
school-
comment to the schools, because
to the
that's where we
school-
are.
To the school budget. The override failed, but I would ask the question, what is the town going to do in the subsequent years as inflation exceeds the amount that we can increase by? Because it is unsustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a question, so we'll have the town manager answer it. What is the town going to do in future years?
Thank you for the question. Myself and Dr. Tu are in correspondence weekly about the situations regarding the town and school budgets. We don't see ourselves divided as town versus school. We're in this as one community and one town. If we do not have a resolution to reducing our costs or continuing with cost staying under that 2.5% level, there will be increased cuts related to staff and services. And I can't tell you what that would be right now, as we haven't done the full analysis, but we discussed that fully last April at town meeting.
Okay, at the microphone to my left.
Hi, Sundar Subramanian, 63 Hillred. What will be the impact to the schools and the Department of Education at the federal level, starting to get closed? Has that been projected?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
I'm just saying that the Department of Education at the federal level is being closed by executive order. Has that impact been assessed? And what will it cause? What will it cause to the school budget? What's the impact to the school budget?
Okay, can we get that? Chris Chu, Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
So approximately $1.2 million of our budget comes from the federal government each year. I will say, as a local district, we have not been talking about what we would be doing if those funds did not come through. But statewide, the Superintendent's Association has been talking about it, because this would not be a unique to Westford situation. So I know our state legislators and our governor, they're talking with us about all the different options that may or may not exist if funding was to not exist. But our current budget is supported approximately $1.2 million from the federal government.
Thank you.
At the center microphone.
Coaches, Forge Village
You'll have
Road.
to step forward and
Oh.
close to the mic.
Hello.
Yes,
Testing.
now we can hear.
James Coaches, Forge Village Road. I just want to say, I'm a veteran and I look as the next generation of this country to be important, something we should prioritize. When I hear conversation about how we're maybe over prioritizing that, and yet we're approving things like buying property for no apparent reason and other things like that, it's gross. I don't like it. I don't like seeing the surges. We need to talk about prioritization as a town as a whole. I'm with that first speaker. Thank you.
And at the microphone to my right.
James Shuley, 19 Flushing Pond Road. Just a follow-up comment on the comment from this mic earlier that though the town, the pie chart for town expenses lists schools as 52.3. Actually, when you take into account the unclassified, the percent of the unclassified budget, which is personnel, health insurance, and all the rest, according to the Finance Committee report, it comes up to 75% when you include the costs for the school department employees separate from the town employees. 52.3 does sound low, and it's just the way of kind of an artifact of the way the pie chart is done. And it's actually 75.6% goes toward education. Thank you.
Thank you. At the center microphone.
Catherine McGee, Cold Spring Road. So I wasn't aware of what the previous speaker just spoke about, the cuts to the intervention specialists. I know last year on the football fields, we had an amendment to fund them. So can someone please speak to that? Like what cuts this budget is going to be having? And what are the options to increase should we be amending to make sure that we keep these services for our children, especially as the previous speaker said that we might lose special education costs from the federal government? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I can answer that question for you. So in our budget for FY '26, we were recommending a reduction in the number of interventionists that we have based on the data that we've been looking at this year. So I will say it was an inaccurate statement to say that we were cutting our interventionists. That is something that we did talk about last year, and yes, town meeting supported an amendment that allowed us to keep our, the program of the interventionists in place this year. And at the very beginning of the school year, one of the things we did is we looked at the exit and entrance criteria for the students who are being supported by the interventionists. And so the budget before you has us sustaining what we believe is necessary for us to continue supporting the students with that program. But it is a reduction of the number of interventionists that we have, but we will still have intervention supports in our elementary schools.
Next person. Hi, Kathleen Lallman, Timberley Lane. I have more of a question. We're talking about budget, school budget, town budget. And I understand that the town has its own insurance policy for all of its employees, whether it's the school system or the people who work for the town. If that's the case, has a study been done as to whether it would be cheaper to have a public insurance company cover all of the town employees as opposed to the costs that the town is incurring, paying for insurance for the town employees and the school employees? Just wondering, since everything's going up,
We'll
would
have
it
the
be
town
cheaper?
manager answer that question.
Thank you. So I believe the question was, should we have two pools of health insurance, one for the town employees and one for the?
I'm going to interrupt you.
Sure.
My understanding was that the town pays for all of the insurances, and there isn't a separation from like private insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, whatever. And I'm just wondering if instead of the town organizing its own insurance payouts and whatnot, if that's the case, would a like Blue Cross or Tufts or something like that be cheaper for the town to pay through them rather than the town setting up their own policy within the town?
So I'll do my best. I may not answer this properly, but.
So, do you understand?
I think I understand. So the town of Westford contracts with a broker to bring Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance to all employees, town and school employees.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see that there would be any cost savings by going out with another group for town versus schools. We are within our health insurance trust to do that at this point in time. We have investigated going to different health insurance programs where the increases are actually much greater than we're seeing right now. So we believe that we're on a path that is most conservative for the town of Westford.
Right. And the coverage is comparable for the town as opposed to like Blue Cross Blue Shield or Tufts or whatever.
The town of Westford employees have Blue Cross Blue Shield.
It is Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right. Okay. But the coverage is comparable is what I'm saying.
The coverage is comparable, if not better, for our employees than it is for other employees in different districts
Right.
or different towns.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Let's take the vote on Westford Public Schools. 69,388,572. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Will the person who had the hold on Neshoba Tech please come forward?
Leon Calitri, Heather Drive. Can you explain the 20% increase? Is that because there are more students going there? Or
Yes.
is our allocation different? Thank you.
The allocation is different as we're sending 14 more students to Neshoba Tech than we have budgeted for.
All right, I did promise those people who did not want to go for an extra half hour, it would only be a half hour. So I'm going to break for lunch now. Can I have, yeah? Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't vote Neshoba Tech. Let's vote
Ma'am?
Neshoba Tech first. I'll make them Yes?
Bradley Wood, Plain Road. Similar to the previous question, how is the impact and the cuts in the Department of Education impacting the budget for Neshoba Tech for next year?
We'll try and get an answer to that question. Neshoba Tech creates their own budget and, oh, is there somebody here who can answer that?
Thank you for the question. I'm Denise Pigeon, the superintendent at Neshoba Tech. Our answer is very similar to what you heard from Westford Public Schools. We do have 2 larger grants that we do receive for special education in Title I. We have not been directly informed that there are any specific cuts at this time, but it does support our budget by about $500,000.
All right, let's move to the vote. For Neshoba Tech, $1,792,307. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion passes. It is not unanimous. Can I have a motion to adjourn until 1:15? Is that too much time? Or do people want just a half hour? Okay, let's just adjourn until 1 o'clock then. There's lunch. Can I have a motion to that effect? Is there a second? Okay, all in favor of adjourning till 1 o'clock? Opposed? Okay, it's not unanimous. There's lunch in the cafeteria, or you can head in there with your own lunch. Please be sure to be back here at 1 o'clock. I'll be starting right then.